6 p.m. I call this meeting to order for January 12th, 2021. And we have a roll call, please.
Council Agency Authority Member Stockton.
I'm here.
Silva.
Here.
We're just waiting for Michelle to come back on.
Council Authority Member Roberts. Council Authority Member Wiley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Here.
Mayor Roulette.
I am present. If you could please stand with me for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move to item 3, approval of the agenda. Mr. City Manager, do we have anything that is changed on the agenda?
No, there are no changes tonight, Mayor.
Can I have a motion?
This is Mike Silva, motion.
Can I
Councilmember
have a
Stockton.
second?
Seconds.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council Member Sullivan.
Yes.
Council Member Stockton.
Yes.
Council Member Silva.
Yes.
Council Member Roberts.
Yes.
Council Member Wiley.
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Aye. And just a note, I heard Roberts is here. I know that he didn't check in, but I'm just noting it for the record that he is with us. We'll move to item 4, approval of the minutes. If nothing needs to be changed, I'll take a motion.
This is Sullivan. I motion.
Thank you. Can I get a
Silva.
second?
Silva, second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Council Member Stockton.
Yes.
Council Member Silva.
Yes.
Council Member Roberts.
Yes.
Council Member Wiley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Aye. We do have item 5A, a presentation from the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club. Mr. City Manager, did you want to start that off?
I'll just introduce our staff, Daniel Huerta from our Housing Services Department, who will go ahead and introduce the topic. Thank you.
I apologize. This is Emily Cantu, the Director of Housing Services, and unfortunately Dan Huerta couldn't make it this evening, but Anna Eaton is here, and she would like to talk to you a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club. The city and the Boys and Girls Club have had a great partnership for many years now, and she wanted to let you know the most recent things that are going on with the club. Anna, are you there?
Anna, are you with us?
Emily,
Anna, try.
so I don't see Anna on the list. You don't see her on the list? Okay. Perhaps she had some technical issues. I'm joining.
We
Yeah,
can,
just probably
We can jump to consent and then come back to presentation, see if she jumps on.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yes, absolutely. We'll table 5A. We'll move to 6. Does anyone from the city council have any item they would like to pull off the consent calendar tonight? I see no hands up. Oh, I do see, oh, that's a attendee. I see no one from the city council, so I'll open it up to anyone from the public that would like to pull any item, and I believe I do have one.
Caller ending in 211, I'll open your mic.
Caller, are you there?
Hi, it's Alicia Minion. Thank you for your patience. So I have a question on item 6E, the Farmstead Park improvement. So that's the one I wanted pulled.
Okay, I will pull that one. Any other ones? Or is that it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
Okay, I'll just pull that one. I do believe we have another hand up, Edward Russell.
Yes, good. I would like to see if we can pull 6A from the consent calendar.
6A? Yes, sir. I don't see any other hands, so I'm going to close the public comment, and I will entertain motion for 6B, C, D, F. Can I have a motion?
Councilmember Stockton, I motion. To approve. This is Silva, second.
I got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Roulette.
Aye. We'll go back to item 6A, and I'll open it up to Edward, if Edward's on the line.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so just quickly, as I was reading it, and I called the last meeting when this was on the agenda and there was discussion about it from everyone. And I see that it's just going to be moved forward with the, I think it was like $1,000 or whatever it is per person, per whatever. But my only concern about it is my initial concern was just the conflict of interest that any amount of money would cause. And I'm sure there's bureaucratic red tape or what have you, but it still seems to me that once there's money exchange for any candidate, and I'm not just talking specific here in Vacaville, but since we are here in Vacaville, that when money is changing hands, then the next candidate, once successfully elected, is now kind of basically a puppet for this entity that supplied this money. And to look at what's happened recently last week with the terrorist attack and the attempted coup of the government, and what we find out today, or what I think a lot of us already knew, that a lot of this was an inside job by lawmakers, senators, and representatives who are lawmakers, just like city council members are lawmakers. And there's a link between these people who donated money to help them organize, fund, and then infiltrate the government. So again, I'm concerned that the conflict of interest isn't addressed. I understand the money value, but I think once the money changes hands, we open up a can of worms. So that's all I had to say on that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Mrs. City Attorney, do you want to jump in on that? You have
Sure,
some insight on what, go ahead.
Sure, I can make a brief comment. The law does treat campaign contributions differently because of the First Amendment issues that are involved there. And so typically contributions alone do not create a conflict of interest.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do see another caller. Can we go to the next caller, please? This is still on 6A, caller.
CEO, can I see that you're...
Yes, hello?
Yes, sir. Are you calling to comment on 6A?
No, actually, I just had my hand raised because I was waiting for another topic.
Okay, when that topic comes, raise your hand again and we'll call on you. Thank you.
Okay.
Seeing no other callers, I will bring it back to the City Council, close public comment, and I see Vice Mayor Sullivan. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to comment really quickly, even though this was on consent, there was a pretty robust discussion about the conflict of interest portion and kind of listing interests. And, we talked about developers and special interest groups and different things. And so we didn't really end on anything tangible other than we all sort of agreed it was a problem. We wanted to revisit at a later date. So I just sort of wanted to restate the spirit of that discussion and that I hope that staff has something in mind to bring back at a later date to really talk about the transparency of those dollars. So my larger concern with this whole discussion wasn't necessarily the actual dollar amount. It was kind of where that money's coming from and if it's being hidden or kind of, used in ways that, you're essentially paying someone and then they have a vote on your contract or a vote on your development or a vote on a business or something. We were going to talk about the transparency angle, and that was a sort of superfluous conversation. So I did kind of want to ask real quickly, maybe Melinda or the city manager, what is the game plan on sort of the spirit of those comments from council last time?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is the city manager. So we absolutely have not forgotten those comments that was discussed at the last meeting. We are working together on trying to put together a response in that, but we'd like to wait until we get the final council member on board so that we can complete, have a full council discussion about that subject. And we will definitely be prepared to bring something back to you once the final seat is filled.
Thank you. That refreshes my memory. I appreciate it.
Okay, seeing no other hands from the council.
Can I add something? Sorry, this is Silva.
Oh, yes, sir. I apologize. Councilmember Silva.
All right, I couldn't type that fast, but all right, Mayor. So just maybe something we can consider to have that discussion in a workshop format at some point. And maybe that might be a more, more of a better format to actually kind of go through different options if that is the goal to how do we best address any potential conflicts of interest and then proceed with the council meeting. So I'm not sure our process on how we discuss if it's more appropriate for a workshop versus a council meeting, or do we just straight up jump into a council meeting? Because for me personally, I just like to get a lot more information and research more on what's been done in other communities.
Okay, great. I do see Councilmember Stockton.
Thank you, Mayor. In the meantime, am I correct that some of the campaign donations, the 460 forms are available on the city's website for people to look at to see which candidates or which sitting council members have received donations from various different people?
So at this time, we are awaiting our new public relations manager so that we can kind of get our website situated, but we do have to comply with the law that any Form 460s that are turned in beginning January 1st will be posted to our website within 72 hours of the deadline of the receipt of those. So we are working to get a page up where that will be there going forward, and then we'll try to load previous 460s that we've received up there as well, but we'll definitely be going forward from here on.
Okay.
We took down the most recent election just simply because we've just started a new election, And we didn't want to confuse anybody with those forms at this point in time. We wanted to have a clean special election slate up there. So the ones that were up there for the November election have been taken down at this time.
Okay, but do you anticipate that at some point they will be made available to the public for their viewing?
Yes, they will.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. City Clerk, I just want to remind you that our discussion from last meeting, there were people that were concerned that getting to that on the website was a little bit difficult. So I would just urge at the request of the citizens that we try to make that so user-friendly for everyone that's out there. So that's just a request. You don't have to comment on that, but I thank you very much. Seeing no other hands up, I'll entertain motion for item 6A.
I make a motion.
Sullivan will make a motion.
I have a motion from Wiley and I believe second from Silva?
Sullivan. Yeah.
Sullivan, okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. We will move to item 6E, and I do believe Alicia Minion asked to pull this, so we'll open up her mic. Alicia's still there, please.
Hi, Alicia Minion again. Okay, so I actually submitted some questions about this morning, and I just want to thank staff for answering my questions, but I had some additional questions. So in the staff report, it indicates that as a condition of the approval of the project, including that the developer, it was a different developer when this project was approved. So Taylor Morrison, is now the current developer. And so part of the deal was they would dedicate 5 acres of land, 3 of which would be for a park. I think if I remember correctly, the size of the park is much smaller than what's required by code. I forgot why the developer got this break, this exception. But in any event, it says in the staff report that in exchange, the city committed to providing the developer a credit against the neighborhood park portion of the park development impact fee. And I don't remember, was that what I want to know is this commitment, was it set forth in writing, like in a developer agreement, or I just don't remember how the commitment was memorialized. And then also, the staff report indicates that the value of these credits is approximately $227,000. It says that if approved by council, reimbursement to the developer would be paid out of the Park and Recreation Development Impact Fee Fund. It's my understanding that that fund is used to benefit all parks. And so I'm not sure that this particular commitment to make or to provide credits to the developer, how did that impact the pre-existing plans on how to use the Park and Recreational Development Impact Fee? So by council approving this today, how is this going to negatively impact potential projects that were planned in the past for any particular park in the city? And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, can you start that?
Sure. I believe Hugh Hesterman, our park planner, is on the line that prepared the staff report, and he can answer those questions. Hugh?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. I'd be happy to take a stab at those questions. Hopefully I got them written down correctly. I think the first one was regarding the memorialization of the commitment by the developer, and also a related question about the size of the park. So as part of the entire process of development, the developer agreed that he would dedicate roughly a 3 acre park as part of the 5-acre open space dedication, and would also develop it in exchange for their portion, the 130 homes that would be developed, their portion of the park impact fee. And I'll explain that a little bit later when we get to the second or the third question she asked, I guess. So the size of the park was asked, why is that a less than our minimum standard? And that's very astute. Our minimum standard is 6-acre minimum size for neighborhood parks. However, there's a caveat in the general plan that explains that for infill sites, such as this one was, such as the farmstead was, it would be acceptable to utilize or to accept a smaller neighborhood park, smaller than 6 acres. The 3-acre size came about through much negotiation about the cost that could be supported by this subdivision, and not only for the dedication and development of the park, but also for the long-term maintenance through the local lighting and landscaping maintenance assessment district. So that's how that 3 acres was achieved. Then the second thing was a question, or I guess it was maybe the third question, revolved around the payment of park diff. So in our impact fee structure, park and rec diff are separated into two basic components. 34.5% of the park diff is allocated to neighborhood park for the land and also the development. The remaining percentage is for all the other community facilities like community parks, senior centers, rec centers, pools, gymnasiums, that sort of thing. So in this case, those 130 homes would be credited with only the 34.5% of the neighborhood park of the total fee that would otherwise be extracted from the development. Was I able to answer all those questions properly?
Mr. Mayor, this is Aaron. I'd just like to add into there that the other point about in terms of taking away from the DIF fund, I mean, in effect, what's happening is through these conditions of approval is that we're asking the developer to build the park that would otherwise be funded by the payment of park fees. And so because they are proactively putting in the park as part of their project, it is not appropriate to go ahead and then charge them the neighborhood fee portion of the city's park fee, so that they are in effect putting in the park and paying for it a second time. So that's the purpose of the fee agreement, is to take a credit against the park fee because we're actually getting a better value for their efforts to put the park in up front.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I do see a good stack of callers. Let's start going through the callers, please. Actually, you know what, Vice Mayor, you had your hand up. Do you want to wait through these callers, or do you want to make a comment now?
I'll wait for the callers.
Okay, let's start with the callers, please. Shirley Lewis.
Shirley Lewis, I'll open your mic. You may need to press *6 in order to accept your mic being opened.
Hey, Shirley, are you with us? Shirley? All right, Crystal, let's go to the next caller. Maybe come back to Shirley.
C. Sebrian, I will open your mic.
Good evening, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you calling on 6E?
I am. This is Christian Sebrian. I am a land use counsel for Taylor Morrison, and just wanted to just supplement Hugh's responses a little bit, just as far as where the obligation for credits are located. It's tentative map condition 22, and which contemplated this fee agreement and park construction agreement that's before you tonight. And also as to the use of fee credits, if the city were to purchase the property and construct its own park, it obviously would be paying all actual costs. The result of this agreement is the developer has a cap of its potential reimbursement of $200,000, while the estimated costs of construction, including the value of the land, is over $1 million. So there's about a $700,000 contribution by the developer towards this park construction. And that's all I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Next caller.
Shannon Danley, I'll open your mic.
Yeah,
Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I had a question in regards to, and I know you're going to move forward with this. We have all these developers coming here, and I know city's council's point is going to be we're a separate entity. We're allowing these developers to keep building in our community, but yet they're wanting to put a park there and not a school. And as we already know, when it comes to money, our school district is already hurting. We have more people and more kids and no place to put them. And I'm wondering, when y'all go into a planning with the developer, is there a way you can get the developer to initiate a school instead of a park? Our kids need education, not to run around and play. There's enough of that going on now. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your call. And absolutely, we take schools into effect, and the school district definitely gets involved. So thank you for your comment. Can we have the next caller, please?
Shirley Lewis, I'll open your mic.
Shirley, are you there?
I'll proceed to Wendy Brecken. I'll open your mic.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Wendy Brecken. And I had a question about this because if you read the staff report, it talks about sort of the factors that went into this agreement. And a couple of them were interesting. One being that there's minimal recreational facilities. And that was somehow combined with, minimal maintenance because the city doesn't want to be having to pay too much for maintenance. So it would seem, I don't know if it's too late to renegotiate this, but we're certainly as a city deficient in recreational facilities. I don't think it would take too much maintenance to have a basketball court or soccer field or, I'm not sure about baseball. Maybe that is more maintenance, but I would think that the city might want to think about its priorities and policies as far as, letting there be enough facilities for everybody. Because I know the gentleman before me was talking about schools, and that is also a huge issue. But we are severely deficient in our parks. So I guess my question is it too late to change up this particular project? If not, how we go moving forward with this new city council to think about its recreational facilities and putting priority on future developments?
Thank you, Wendy. Great question. Mr. City Manager?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it is a good question. And with regards to the specifics of this particular park and the Farmstead project, all those details in terms of the size and the improvements needed and the appropriateness of what could be supported for that neighborhood, those were all discussed thoroughly in great depth with the actual approval of the Farmstead project. That went through the Planning Commission several times, the City Council. The park itself went through a lot of design review and evaluation through our Parks and Recreation Commission as well. So that particular park has been thoroughly vetted for what is appropriate and what is necessary for that particular portion of the community. Looking at the big picture and scheme of things, we absolutely have been evaluating that through the city's general plan and through an effort that our Parks and Rec department is currently wrapping up with our Parks Master Plan. And so we have actually been on a regular basis at the multiple Parks and Rec Commission meetings going through how we plan for and build park facilities in the city. And while there might be some existing deficiencies because we didn't have as a big a standard for park development in the earlier years of the city, we definitely have a higher standard now that we are planning for, and will occur through the development of our new development areas out there within the city limits. And those are all identified in the city general plan, and again, will be included in more detail with the completion of our Parks Master Plan.
Thank you. I see Lucy is on the line. Can we open her mic, please?
Hi there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to actually speak about an agenda item 7 and also make a comment on Kaylee Jefferson Henkel's case. Is this the appropriate time to do that?
No, it's not.
Okay.
We'll just raise your hand when we get to that next item.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I see no other hands up from the public. I'll close public comment. I'll bring it back to the City Council. I'll start with Vice Mayor Sullivan, please.
I think my comment is kind of a bigger picture comment, and it sort of relates to some of what the callers were talking about a little bit as well. And it's not exactly speaking about this particular project, although I'm going to ask for some details on that. So one of the things I've noticed in recent developments in Vacaville over the last 10 years or so, 15 years or so, is we do continue to get into these development agreements with developers. And, oftentimes the parks and the schools won't really be front loaded. And so, we had North Village and we had Southtown, and we had a couple other places where, the way we typically do things is we structure the development agreement so that after X amount of houses are built or X amount of permits are pulled, that the park is built, or, the school is a whole nother bailiwick, and we could spend a whole meeting talking about schools and what we could do there. But I do know that on this particular deal, the city did make a few slight adjustments to work with the developer to get the park built a little sooner. I think it's the 85th permit, I believe, is the trigger point. It has to be completed by full project completion. I guess the point I want to make is we really need to encourage staff and really kind of change our past practice. And I know it's not super easy because developers need to have capital to build and developers need to have the cash to actually make these amenities. But I really am just kind of dismayed by the newer developments in town coming into place. And I'm not talking about this project, so I think it'll be a little different based on the speed of the build and the size and the construction. But it's not fair to build new houses and then have developers promise kids parks and schools to families when they're buying the homes, and then have parks not built for 10 years, 15 years, et cetera, or never get schools. And so really making more of a larger, more kind of symptomatic comment of the way we've been building in Vacaville over the last 20 years. We need to really figure out a way to work with developers or really kind of hold our line in the sand to make sure that those parks are built in a timely fashion and that those schools are being built, or at the very least that developers are being honest with buyers when they're buying these homes. I've walked into a couple development offices, and I won't really say where in Vacaville, it wasn't on this project. And the folks in the sales office tell you, yeah, the school's going to be there in 2 years and the park's going to be there. It's full knowing there's no plan for a school and the park's going to be 15 years out. I just kind of want to make that statement today because I think as a council, this is something we need to address. And Vacaville residents they're getting the wool pulled over their eyes. And so this project's a little different. I don't know if the city manager wants to speak to kind of the unique arrangement here, or how this is sped up a little bit. But I do want to encourage staff to continue to push to kind of make this a possibility, and also have developers fully disclose when we're talking about parks and schools and developments, and they're selling to people products that may not come as the product they're being sold. So, Aaron, can you talk to us a little bit about the park trigger on this particular project and how that's a little bit different from some past developments?
Certainly, Vice Mayor. So the traditional way of neighborhood park development, as you alluded to, has typically been that when a subdivision is approved, and if there's a neighborhood park component associated with that the park would be developed through the payment of park impact fees as building permits are issued. And as you can imagine, as it takes time for those building permits to be issued and collect the amount of money necessary to build a 5-acre park or 6-acre neighborhood park. And as the representative for this particular project indicated, the actual cost of the project versus the amount of park fee that is collected, there's quite a difference there. So then the traditional method usually takes more time because more building permits are necessary to be issued to collect the money necessary. And in some cases, there's a shortfall. So in this particular case, because it's a smaller subdivision in more of an infill area, if you will, we sought to work with the developer to get the park constructed sooner than later. And really because it was a final piece in the neighborhood, there were no other building permits to be issued. So we thought it was appropriate to work with them. And they were agreeable to include the conditions that said that upon the issuance of the 85th building permit, they would begin construction of the park and then finish it soon thereafter. So the residents of that new neighborhood would be assured a park that was under construction and completed before the final building permit was issued. In this case, I believe that they're actually well underway with the park construction, and it will probably be completed sooner than the 85th building permit because of the progress that's being made out there. So that's more of what we call a developer turnkey park methodology. Again, where the developer puts the park in and then receives credit against the park fees in lieu of putting the park up front. So going forward, I agree that that second methodology of the turnkey park does provide benefits for the neighborhood and the residents, as well as for the city. And, going forward, that's something that we'll absolutely be looking to have, additional dialogues with our developers. I will say that we do still have quite a few existing development agreements and with existing master plans and specific plans out there in some of our newer growth areas that still incorporate the traditional methodology for park development. So there's some work to be done, but they have an approved development agreement that we'll have to work within the boundaries of. But if there's ever an opportunity to revisit that, that might be an opportunity going forward.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate it. One quick follow-up question. You mentioned existing park plans. So there was a park plan that was asked for extension at the Planning Commission. I want to say maybe a meeting back or 2 meetings back. Is that coming to council, or is that already a done deal and extended? I think it was Robert Branch or somewhere in that area.
Are you referring to a development agreement extension?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that will definitely have to come back to the City Council.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the information.
I see no other hands. I'll entertain motion for 6E.
I'll make a motion. Sullivan.
This is a second. Who was my second?
It was Stockton.
Stockton, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Wiley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. We will go back now to item 5A. I do believe we have Anna with us now. Will you open up Anna's mic, please?
Good evening.
Hi, Anna, are you there?
I'm here. How are you tonight?
There you are. Welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight and including me in your agenda. I want to say good evening and welcome to the new council members as well. My name is Anna Eaton. I'm the CEO of the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club, and I wanted to use this opportunity to introduce myself and also to kind of update you on how the Boys and Girls Club is doing in terms of operations and what has been happening at the Trower facility. So what you have in front of you, hopefully, is the one-pager infographic that I put together. Just some data that I'm going to help you digest tonight so that you can have a good understanding of how we're operating and what's going on at the Boys and Girls Club. In normal times, we would have 9 sites up and running, but currently we have 4 sites open and serving youth. In normal times, we would be operating typically in the after-school hours. However, since the closure of the schools last March, we've been open and running full-day operations to help our students and families navigate distance learning. So our current hours of operation is 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. As you can imagine, with the restrictions in place with physical distancing and the cohort sizes that we must maintain, we're not able to serve the amount of children that we typically would. And so that increases the cost per child. Currently, it's about what we've calculated is it's just under $1,700 per quarter per child. But for our membership and what we're known for is being affordable to all. And so our families, depending on what tier they fall in, are paying anywhere between $20 to $60 a month for full day service, distance learning support, as well as life skills programs after school. When you take a look at who is attending our sites, the 4 sites that we have running right now, we're working with youth from 19 different schools across 3 different school districts. In total, we have 190 youth on the roster, although that is not our average daily attendance. So we have more about 90 kids spread out across the 4 sites that we have up and running. And our response to COVID was pretty quick. We actually did not shut our doors at any moment. We have remained open since last March, and we have been able to maintain a healthy environment there for our youth and for our staff. We have only one reported case of COVID there, but that was actually with a staff person who did not interact with our children. And that staff person was able to quarantine at home and has fully recovered and actually had mild symptoms. And so we're really happy for that. And that we've been able to keep our kids and our staff healthy because of the protocols that we've implemented. And so if you look at the bottom of the infographic, it talks about the COVID-19 impact. Our immediate response was to stay open, and that was a board decision. And essentially, we were open to the essential workers while everybody was sheltering in place. But now we are open to all youth. We actually do have a wait list that is growing for families and youth who are wanting to get into the program. From the get-go, we did extend our operating hours, understanding that with the schools being closed, kids would still need somewhere to go, especially for those families that were still working. Our staff did go through training on precaution measures, distancing and sanitation. That was from the get-go, and we had a lot of support from Boys and Girls Club of America on implementing protocols and a path forward in case anybody in the cohort should test positive for COVID. And so we were ready for our being able to keep the facility open and the potential risk and exposure of being open. Although we did have to cancel a lot of our fundraisers just because of timing and the fast response of, everything shutting down. We also moved into recovery mode. And so once those were all implemented, we continue to maintain operations and look forward to the new school year and how that would work alongside with the school districts and their reopening plans. During that time, we did distribute Club to Go resource bags as well as produce boxes to kids who were not attending the club. We were able to retain about 80% of our staff to prepare for reopening of the additional sites. We also worked with our youth and our staff on coping strategies and resiliency. And of course, we had to pivot our fundraisers to virtual. And so now in the resilience phase, we are committed to slowly but safely opening more sites in order to serve more youth. Right now, staffing is really difficult in terms of finding qualified people and people who are willing to come to work every day. We do have distance learning support for children in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we go into regular club programming after school as we would typically. And so we're working with kids on life skills programs, on healthy habits, on character and leadership development. and we're building their future preparedness. We're continuing in that programming. We're becoming increasingly digital, and of course, we're always putting the children's health and safety first. The reason for us to stay and maintain our open and to want to move to open more of our facilities is because there are critical issues facing our kids today. And that is the learning loss due to technology access and capabilities. That is something that we have been working with the school district on, identifying students who are really struggling. Also, lack of supervision and resources, heightened child abuse and neglect. As we know, those safety nets that were typically there in the schools or in programs like ours are less now because we're not seeing the children as much. And there's also increased mental health issues based on the new normal. So if you can imagine adults having a hard time navigating the past year, imagine how kids with less tools, how they're navigating it and how they're feeling about that. And so we're happy that the children that we are servicing right now are able to come and communicate and work with our mentors to help navigate all the issues that our community, our nation has faced for the past year. However, not all children are accessing that. And so that is a great concern for us. In order for us to stay open, of course, our funding needed to stay in place as well. As you can see, our funding streams consist of grants, donations, special events, and program fees. What took the biggest hit was our special events. Even though we were able to pivot virtually, that's just not something that people were interested too much in, just, as opposed to in live events. But thankfully, due to grants that we received and also due to donations from corporate and individuals, we were able to maintain a pretty healthy budget in order to stay open and service the kids that we have right now. So when we're looking at the population of families that we serve, currently 33% are single parent homes, 55% are low income homes. And that picture to the far bottom right is a picture of the produce boxes. It included a lot of variety of seasonal produce as well as dairy and protein. We were able to be a distribution center and were able to pass out 317 produce boxes throughout summer and into fall, especially when the fires hit and we had some families in need who were displaced. Interestingly, during this whole time too, the Trower Center, which is a city facility, underwent a rehab. It's something that had been in the works for years because there were foundation issues. And Daniel Huerta, Emily Cantu of the Housing Department, and Chris Joya in Public Works worked with me on getting the foundation issue addressed. It was bad enough that we actually had to close the center and relocate our operations to Jefferson so that the contractors could come in and fix the foundation for us. So we did get to enjoy new flooring, and alongside of that, we also were able to get new texture on the walls. So we continued the facility rehab ourselves, and we were able to paint the interior as well as get all of the ceiling tiles replaced and all of the fluorescent lights replaced and upgraded as well. And this is with a lot of community support from Rotary groups and many other different groups and individuals who came to help us during this rehab project that has kind of spanned the months of July through November. So we're really appreciative of that. And I would like to invite the newer council members and of course the veteran council members, if you would like to come by and take a look. We generally, and at this time specifically, don't open our doors to visitors too much, but I would be happy to individually take you inside for a tour and inside for a look at our operations and what the Trower Center currently looks like. I think it's been a great rehab project, and it's looking like a much better facility that the kid, the kind of facility the kids deserve to be in. So I don't know if I'm able to take questions right now, but that is the end of my report. And again, I want to.
You are able, and thank you so much for the presentation. I do have someone that wants to at least comment or ask you a question. So, Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you very much for all your work with children and families and youth at the Boys and Girls Club. And I have not been very familiar with them, so I just have two questions. I didn't hear exactly what you said, how many locations you typically have and how many are open now. And then what's the age range of the children that you work with?
Great question. Thank you. We typically would have 9 sites across Vacaville. Currently, we have 4 sites open, and our age range is from 5 to 18.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for all that you do and all that your board does. You guys just do wonderful, amazing work in Vacaville. And, you know, I've been to the club several times. I'd love to come again, but I just wanted to extend a big, huge thank you to you and your team.
Thank you, Councilmember. I will reach out to you, and I'd love for you to have a tour of what we're looking like and how we're operating inside now.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes, Anna, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to also say how much I appreciate the work that you are doing in our community to lift these children up. Before COVID, I had the opportunity to go to, I think, the last chocolate gala that you had before all of the pivoting to virtual fundraisers, and had the pleasure to listen to Sergio speak about his experiences with the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club. And I just want to assure the citizens of Vacaville that it's programs like this that invest in our youth and the hard work that Anna and her staff does that is really bridging the gap in neighborhoods that need it and that are helping these kids get prepared for college and for school and to be the future leaders of our community. So I just wanted to thank you, Anna, and your staff for the hard work that you're doing and just all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into our kids. And it really does show when you interact with them. I would like a tour as well. So thank you very, very much for what you do.
I appreciate you, Councilmember Stockton. I will definitely reach out and let's schedule a tour.
And Anna, this is Ron Roulette. I've always been a huge fan of you and what you do for our youth. I do remember a phone call that came in very early in the COVID from you, and you were very concerned. And I know that you and I spoke at length about making sure that we can keep your facility open to make sure that the kids were had the help they needed. And I just appreciate everything you're doing. It's just fantastic work, and your team. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for coming and giving us an update. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure, Mayor. Thank you so much for your support.
You take care.
Sorry, Mayor, can I add one comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Councilmember Silva.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Anna, for presenting, and I really enjoyed our chat that we had yesterday. One of the things I kind of want to highlight, and that, you know, these are programs that, you know, that's been commented here, that it truly does address not just the individual child's needs, but the family needs. And, you know, and depending on where that family's at or what they're going through, it truly helps. You know, as you can see here, it's not just low-income families, something that I originally thought that it was something that focused on. And I think having that diverse representation is just really important for the development of our youth and how we start bridging gaps as we move through, you know, through our endeavors and our journey in life. One of the things that I've mentioned before in other public forums, but one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in seeing if there's a demand in the community, it would be having places, safe places for our youth to go to beyond 6 o'clock into the night. A lot of our families, even currently, they're essential workers. They're working, and, you know, they're doing the best they can to make ends meet. They don't have, you know, the resources, or even really as a city, there's not really much that provides a place for kids and our particular youth to go to and attend, to be safe and to be around a positive environment. Something that, you know, I've kind of noticed, you know, and no fault to the families, because again, they're doing what they have to do. But, you know, it just really saddens me, and to a part, quite honestly, angers me that, you know, we have kids that they're sitting there at night with, you know, the light of their screen, keeping them company. And can't help but think about them pretty daily, actually, on how we as a community can pull together to provide a safe place for these kids to continue to grow, develop, and become outstanding citizens, such as many alumni of Boys and Girls Club have and will continue to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Silva. I look forward to your tour this Friday and looking forward to working with the council on this issue.
Thank you again. We will move on to item 7. Before we start, I'm going to read a quick statement. I'd like to address the recent canine incident here in the city of Vacaville. While the council cannot discuss or take any action on this topic because it is not on the agenda, we have received many written comments and we have based those comments and I would like to provide a brief response to those comments. I personally was shocked and dismayed when I saw the video of one of our police officers striking his police dog. I immediately called our city manager and our police chief to get to the bottom of it and find out exactly what happened and why. And I want to provide you an update on this incident. Shortly after the city became aware of this incident, the dog was separated from the police officer. The dog is in care of a canine trainer outside of our police department. He has been evaluated by a veterinarian who has confirmed the dog did not sustain any physical injuries from the incident. One of our top priorities is the well-being of the dog, both physically and mentally. The dog is being evaluated by an animal behavioral specialist with expertise in police canines to determine if the dog has suffered any psychological effects from this incident. Both the city manager and the police chief has assured me that a thorough and objective investigation is underway from an outside agency. We don't have an exact timeline for this investigation, but we want to make sure it's done quickly as possible. However, the priority is to investigate it thoroughly, make sure it's done correctly, and allow all legal requirements and parameters. The investigation will include the evaluation of our police officers' actions, as well as a complete review of the canine program, the policies, and procedures. To ensure an objective investigation, the city has retained services from 2 third-party experts to participate in this process. The first is a canine training specialist who has no previous relationship with the city of Vacaville. This expert will do a deep dive into the police department's canine program, including training, handling, and all policies and procedures. The second expert will conduct the investigation of the police officer's actions. Once the investigation is complete, any discipline or training will take place. In addition, the police department will make any changes necessary to its canine program to ensure that it's in line with the industry's best practices. Many of the comments we received have demanded the officer's name be released. Unfortunately, those comments can be taken as threats of the officer's safety. The officer's name will not be released until staff can do a complete review of the comments to determine if withholding the officer's name is essential to his safety. This will, of course, be carefully balanced against the public's interest in learning the officer's information. The city of Vacaville and our police department acknowledge the video is troubling and demands a thorough investigation of the incident and review of our canine program. We understand that many of you are outraged, and please make no mistake, we are responding to your comments and will provide you with the information once it's reviewed and complete. I, along with all the city council and the city staff, take this matter very seriously. We've realized the spotlight has been shined on our city for the wrong reasons, and we know that there's many of you guys out there watching everything that we do very closely. We will not make any excuses nor justify any behavior. We will get to the bottom of the situation and take whatever steps are necessary to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. As a reminder, because this item is not on the agenda, the council cannot discuss or take any action on this topic. However, we are here to listen to your comments and on this and any other matter within the jurisdiction. With that, I'll start taking comments.
Ian, I will open your mic.
Hello.
Hi, Ian. Are you there, sir?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Pleasure to take up your time. My original hand was raised a few motions earlier when it was disregard, like not seen, I guess, by you on the public park and how negotiating with private industry should not be a factuality on a public service. But now let me go into the personal like take on these things. Like what people are so enraged with is seeing a Vacaville police officer beating a dog, and I'm wondering, was that the officer training the dog, or was that the department training the officer? Because I have experienced that exact predicament as the dog while handcuffed and pinned down by whoever's partners was pinning my legs down while the officer in question like beat the shit out of me. Pardon my French. So this is not new. This is not this is not like groundbreaking. I'm sorry. This is a tried and practiced tactic and education in your police force and many police all police forces, for all I fucking care at this point. Okay.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to watch your language, or I'm going to cut your mic off.
Pardon my French, Mayor. So what actually are people outraged on? Finally seeing that man's best friend is getting beaten to a pulp, or that men and women are getting beaten and brutalized over and over, yet defamed by your own PD's Facebook accounts. The defamation of an individual over separate or like different mistakes, you know, and then calling a inviting a cultist following to further this brutalization of man versus man, man versus woman, woman versus woman.
Ian, I need you to wrap it up.
Do you see? Well, obviously you don't see because you're not paying attention. So I'm hoping that some other people on the council are listening, and the other callers listening in are listening. Because this has been going on for far too long, and I appreciate your attention, Ron.
Thank you. Next caller.
Delana Knox, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'll open your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I'm Lana. Excited to be here. Usually can't make it. Contrary to popular belief, we protesters do have jobs. So first, I just want to say this is just a general synopsis of everything that's happened in the past 26 weeks of us protesting here in a town where no one thinks there's police brutality or a stroke of corruption. So first, Vacaville PD has arrested not only myself, but other people on false trumped up charges, given us incredibly high bail for no reason. High bail as in $88,000 and $66,000 for protesting. They do things like turn people's phones off onto airplane mode and say never to do this again. And we can talk about the November 1st Trump rally where Officer Love was apparently present, turning up with his comrades. And Vacaville PD was again absent and did not protect protesters when they clashed with the Trump supporters that spit on us, hit us with flagpoles, threw stuff on us, told us to go back south. Yeah, I'm from Vacaville, just in case anyone was wondering. I really just want to say I don't expect Vacaville PD to like us, but it's really telling that they pick and choose when to come around. They came through parading through town after everything, but weren't there to protect us, hoping that we could both exercise our First Amendment rights safely. But you know what happens when they come near us. Not to mention Vacaville PD came out in riot gear for like a group of 15 protesters doing absolutely nothing, and they covered their names up with duct tape. Vacaville PD uses scare tactics. They come to our mothers' houses. They come looking for us. They go to our jobs. They come to our arts and crafts events and record us without saying a word to us. I don't know how anyone can think that's normal. And lastly, we got hate crimed this past Sunday. And we got hate crimed. We got sprayed with some type of insecticide. And the only way that we knew what this chemical was because we were fortunate enough to have street medics present. And Vacaville PD declined to make an arrest. And I just want to say that while everyone is not taking the time to have a dialogue with us, but they want to run to Facebook and talk about all the horrible things that we are not doing, you're ignoring the real problems, and it just shows that you don't consider us valued members of your community. Every day, every Sunday that goes by where you don't talk to us and you don't reach out to find out what's up with us. We've been out here for 26 weeks. And that's all I have to say. And justice for Kaylee. Get off Facebook and read a book. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller.
Libby Cullinan, I'll open your mic.
Hello, City Council. It's been a while since you've heard from me. I would like to start with saying congratulations to Nolan and the rest of the new members of City Council. Just because we turned this board blue does not mean we're going to stop applying pressure. If anything, that means we're going to keep applying more pressure. I have a lot to say, so I hope you can keep up. Referring to the K-9 incident, you just gave the exact same statement that has been given to us time and time and time and time again, regardless of how many emails we send, no matter who's protesting outside of this police station, okay? 4 people show up and we have 10 different media crews showing up, yet we're on week 26 of hitting the streets for justice. That officer brutalized a dog in a way that humans are brutalized every single day by your corrupt department, and you make me sick. And I would like to first say there's an elderly man begging for help from your department, and he is being assaulted on a regular basis by your department. Justice for Kaylee. You still have not made a comment about Kaylee Jefferson Henkel, still to this day, and I know you hear us chanting. And as for the hate crime last week, whoo! And I know, I'm sorry to call you guys out, Aaron and Nolan, I talked to both of you. We literally could have been killed, and your officers did nothing. They convinced me not to press charges as I had tears running down my face as 2 of my best friends were in the fucking emergency room. And one of them were detained. And excuse my language, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to slip out. Okay? Black Zebra Productions released a video of your police force brutalizing a man in a jail cell. And you have not made any comment on that either. Woo! You guys get me hot every time. And what about Manuel Gomez, the man with the cracked skull? The reason why your city attorney is so busy and why so much of our fucking budget, so much of our budget goes to lawsuit. This is why. Your police force and you all clearly do not care. We are on week 26. We have been demanding justice. We have been crying for help, and you ignore us. You know who's helping the houseless people? Not you. We're out there feeding them. We're out here giving them coats from our own closets because we don't have funds. We don't have a $200 million budget to go off of. All right? If you guys don't start listening to us soon, I promise it's not going to be pretty. And that's not a threat. That's just saying there is 16 people in Solano County alone facing literally trumped up charges.
Ma'am, I need you to wrap it up.
Yeah, I don't care. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Next caller, please.
Selena Teresa, I'll open your mic.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi. In regards to the K-9, your response to the K-9 is absolutely absurd, just as absurd as the response to Kaylee Jefferson, Manuel Gomez, and the others murdered by the VVP police and covered up. It is absurd that your response to this is vague and inappropriate and that accountability is avoided. Why is it that that cop is still working along with the rest of Vacaville PD that have covered up the murder of Kaylee Jefferson, has murdered Manuel Gomez? Why are they not fired? And along lines of being hate crime, that one Sunday, and your police department wanting to arrest a Black woman that was victimized by white supremacists? Are you kidding me? And detaining another one that got maced? What kind of response is that? Who do you think you are? This is really, really, really irresponsible, and just like, you're upsetting this community. You are no help to this community. Why is it that people who come from a background of no money have to come together and raise money to feed the houseless, help others wherever they can, while you guys sit there with this trumped up, overly you guys make me laugh because you guys get me so angry. You guys have this budget that is overloaded and you do nothing to help this community, but you give it to Vacaville PD so they can continue to murder Black people that live in Vacaville. How fucking dare you? I'm sorry for my language, but how dare you? I yield my time.
Next caller, please.
Sierra, I'll open your mic.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi. So, as you can hear from plenty of other people around this town, that people are very upset with the way that the police department is treating its citizens. And I think that this just cannot be ignored, and people are not going to stop talking about it. Things have to actually change. Just giving these same statements over and over again that it's being thoroughly investigated and that, you're doing the best you can. We're not really seeing any changes. And that is just, you're just patronizing your own citizens at this point. There are plenty of instances, the cover up of Kaylee Jefferson Hinkle for first and foremost. The video released by Black Zebra Pro of the police brutality within the prisons. That is something that a lot of people have seen. This is not new. This is just coming to light. It might be just coming to your attention in this past year, but it's not going away. Things actually have to change. Protesters are now facing violence, and this is because people feel that they can do whatever they want, so long as they say it's in the name of the police and nothing bad will happen to them. And I think that that's ridiculous. There's just been a case of an elderly man saying that he's been assaulted by the police. What is going to come of that? The K-9 incident got the most coverage, it seems. And that is so banal compared to what's happening to actual people, living, breathing people in this town who are asking for change. And if you are planning to keep your jobs, you better do them. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Bailey Nichols, I'll open your mic.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my name is Bailey Nichols. I deliver the newspaper for Vacaville and Elmira and Winters. And so I see a lot of stuff. I work at night, every night. I drive around your town. I see how it's like. I want to first comment on what all the other passionate callers have commented on, and that is the racism and authoritarianism of the police here. It's ridiculous. It's horrible. I don't want to pay taxes to this anymore. You guys are destroying my country. And then the other thing is that this guy tried to murder me in the middle of the night. He put a gun in my face, right? And because I have no rights, I can't carry a gun because I'm a poor person. Not because I've done anything wrong, but because I'm poor. And I don't like you, so I can't go get a concealed carry permit, which is something you shouldn't have to have, right? And this guy pointed a gun in my face and tried to kill me and my wife while we're doing our job. And then the Vacaville police let him out of jail the next day. And now the district attorney won't return my phone calls. And this guy's name is Richard James Doty, too. And he's a rich guy and he has a good lawyer. So he just gets off when he has a gun. And I see you guys arrest black people almost every day and post their pictures and their names on Facebook. And then you won't release the name of this police officer who hit this dog. And it's unfairness. And you have to understand that that's poisonous to a republic. You have to be fair. You have to apply the law fairly. And that's all I really have to say. Oh, also, the internet companies are ripping all of us off, and they keep ripping my grandma off, and that's pretty frustrating too. But it's about fairness. You guys have to apply the law fairly. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Next caller, please.
Ryan M., I'll open your mic.
Ryan?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, I came over to you guys' police department last Monday and was arrested immediately regarding the dog incident. I came and I called them and told them I wanted to talk to someone about that and like how they choke people out inside the prison. I went down there and immediately officers drawed their guns on me because I carry a katana sword. And I carry that because like these other callers, I know them personally. We have death threats put against us all the time. We have Proud Boys driving by our houses and popping our tires, you know, stuff like that. That's why I carry a sword for personal defense. And they took that away. And it was a very expensive sword. And then they put me in jail for brandishing after they asked me what it was. And I exposed the blade. It cost me $2,800 to get out, and these charges will be dropped. I was practicing my Second Amendment rights, and it's perfectly legal to carry a sword in California. Besides that, this dog beating, I drove from San Francisco to discuss this with your officers. It reflects poorly on your community. The more I find out about Vacaville, the more I know it's one of the worst communities to live in regarding equality and human decency. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Next caller, please.
Ryan T., I'll open your mic.
Can you hear me?
Ryan? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to comment about the dog incident. No state law authorizes this officer's abuse of the dog. Being a canine handler is a privilege. Such an opportunity should be implemented with humility and dignity, and most of all, should embody the utmost respect for the canine. The handler in question exhibited none of this. The officer in question does not have the temperament, mental capability, or emotional capacity to be a canine handler. If this officer sits on top of a dog and repeatedly punches it in the head while hiding behind a trailer in the name of training, it is not much of a mental stretch, as previous people have said, to believe that this officer is capable of similar acts of violence against the people he encounters if he feels he can get away with it. There is no reason to think this is the first time this officer has done something like this. Within the Vacaville Police Department, the officer in question should be formally disciplined. He should be denied the ability to be a canine handler anywhere. He should not be allowed to promote to a position within the department that supervises the canine program or would otherwise have the canine program within his chain of command. Hopefully the Vacaville Police Department will discipline and prosecute the officer like anybody else. The officer in question should be investigated. You said that was happening. Hopefully that does happen. But nothing prevents the Vacaville Police Department to issue a ticket to this officer for animal abuse, like anybody else would get a ticket, even for a parking violation. Nothing prevents the Vacaville Police Department from submitting a formal complaint to the district attorney for prosecution, like any other person for whom there is probable cause. Just because this guy was an officer does not mean he gets to abuse canines. He can get a ticket, there could be a formal complaint, and parallel, you guys can do the external investigations. Vacaville Police Captain Matt Leiden should be reprimanded for his televised excuse that this was appropriate training, or that there was more to the story. That was a baseless, knee-jerk defense of a fellow officer. Captain Leiden should be reprimanded and disciplined for his televised condonement of this officer and animal abuse. And finally, the Vacaville Police City Council should demand the officer in question appear before you at a publicly noticed city council meeting to apologize to his fellow police officers and the people of Vacaville. You want deterrence? Make people show up and publicly admit and apologize for what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next caller, please.
Edward Russell, I'll open your mic.
So, just because you put syrup on dog poop doesn't make dog poop dog biscuits. So, I like dogs, but it's just the loud outcry from people over this dog juxtaposed against the head in the sand attitude when it comes to the Black lives that are routinely, if not daily, attacked, not just here in Vacaville, but worldwide. Should serve as an eye-opener as my life is valued at. That's a little disheartening from a man. I think a community servant that got on top of this animal and beat the crap out of him should be terminated for workplace violence. And I also love the gentleman before who said, yeah, public humility is awesome. Let's come out to touch on some of the points earlier. Vacaville PD City, whoever runs the little websites, love to put pictures of someone's face and then the marijuana or guns or whatever they found with them in the classroom everywhere. Oh, look what our officers did. This person hasn't been charged. They just arrested him. But you're protecting this community servant from whom? For what? So, I take this behavior and past behavior. You can see Gomez later on, which you guys are going to say. And connect it with your community servant folks and add to the terrorist attack that these folks attempted at the Capitol. And you can see immediate need for the complete reform of the community servant role. Big changes need to happen. I will never call these clowns police officers. I will never use that word again. Too much negative connotation. Police means to patrol, hunt. Those days are long gone. It's time to change, seriously. The head of this community servant, Carly, dismissed every Black concern in his little town hall he had over the summer. I think his words were, he cannot believe that his subordinates behave this way. That is systemic racism when you allow people to perform this way and they are not reprimanded or held accountable. So again, when all of your officers...
Edward, I need you to wrap it up, sir.
Yes. I think it's time to put these people out there and expose them for what they are, racist or not. Again, their actions are a reflection on the mayor's legacy. Be well.
Thank you, sir. Next caller, please.
Chris Cisneros, I'll open your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hopefully I can stick to everything I wanted to talk to. I'm not gonna lie though, the statement that was made regarding the canine incident has me feeling very emotional because I had planned to really talk about a few things. But that in itself just brought me to kind of a place of rage, I would say. Because, you know, the way you describe the care, how much you care about the canine, how disturbing it was to see that video, all the steps that are going into taking care of this canine, which is just so wonderful for the canine. But how about the multiple complaints of police brutality in Vacaville? Where's the care? Where are the steps that are being taken into looking into that? We need steps taken into looking into the officer. This needs to be taken care of. However, we had a town hall with Chief Carley, and he offered a cup of coffee with so many people. And to my knowledge, there's no cup of coffee that has been had. There's been something circulating recently about an elderly man in Vacaville who feels he's being harassed. He's putting up posters of all the times the police are coming to harass him. Vacaville is known as a place where you don't really want to go, you know, if you're a certain shade. It's known all around the Bay Area as a place that you don't want to go. It's actually known in Sacramento as a place where the Proud Boys want to end up after their rallies. And if you know what's been going on in Sacramento, the Proud Boys have been up there every weekend. And if you know what's going on in this country, in DC, you know how that ended up. And what we don't want is another insurgence, another attempted coup or something like that to happen here in Vacaville. And that happened because nobody did anything. After the multiple complaints, after multiple people saying that this was going to happen with Trump and the Republicans and people that are so diehard over a person for some reason. And they came here already. They showed force in Vacaville already. And nothing has been done about it. And we need to do something about it before it gets worse, because we've already seen what they can do.
I need to wrap it up, please.
Okay, well, I hope that January 20th goes well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Rose Medina, I'll open your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. First of all, I just want to say my heart goes out to all the callers regarding the racial and financial injustice. It's disturbing to hear that. But my call is regarding the canine abuse that occurred. There's two things that I want to ensure that this government here includes in their investigation. I understand that you have two third-party independent investigators looking at the police canine program, as well as the individual police officers' conduct. What I'd like you to include in that investigation is when you report out, how did you determine the third party that you're using to make that analysis? It's very important that you provide that to the public, how you made that determination to utilize this third party to make this determination. And then the second thing I'd like you to do is, and I love the caller who talked about the humility, bringing the officer in front of the council and making the public statement. That person made a great comment, and I applaud him. He mentioned the captain's comment. So when the evaluation is occurring, they need to also include the captain's responsibility and his participation in that process. So it's very important. Not only do you include that the program, but the captain's behavior and the announcement that he did in that evaluation. He needs to be held accountable too. It was a terrible display of how Vacaville has been represented in the nation's eye, and it's just very, very disappointing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller, please.
Danielle Shea, I'll open your mic.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
My first statement is directed to you, Ron. I could not be more disappointed in your prepared statement. It was just as condescending as the statement from Matt Leiden on the BPD's Facebook page. But it did serve as an excellent reminder that the matter of the canine officer and the subsequent suspension of the officer needs to be agendized. So I'd like to open my statement tonight by insisting that you agendize this matter and force suspension of the officer while the investigation is conducted. Regarding the greater systemic matter at hand, I'm outraged because you all have lost control and accountability over your police department, and the people of this community are paying for it. January 3rd, protesters were attacked by counter protesters, were sprayed with unidentified chemical agents, and your officer is on film saying, well, they said you did it and you said, so we're just not going to do anything about it. I mean, it's almost childlike the way that he's talking to people who were assaulted in their own community while peacefully protesting. Several people went to the hospital. Some of them were innocent bystanders and they did nothing. Right now, there's a sandwich board on California Street here in Vacaville with what you could only call cries for help, posted by an elderly gentleman with multiple accounts of police assault. It includes dates and times and the badge numbers of the officers who assaulted him. And he shared that he went to the police department and attempted to file assault charges. But of course, the officers who were assigned refused to write up the statement. We're all very familiar with the canine case. One of the most disturbing parts of that was Matt Leiden's statement. It was incredibly condescending, but it really shone a light on how accustomed the Vacaville Police Department are to brutalizing people and animals, but then blaming them for the abuse that they receive. This is systemic and it is cultural. Later this evening, you're having a closed session to discuss litigation that the city of Vacaville and the police department is engaged in right now because the police officers aggressively attacked an elderly gentleman who was hard of hearing so violently that he had multiple broken bones in his face, his skull, suffered a brain hemorrhage, shattered the bones in his ear, and now he has permanent hearing loss. And just because he was walking away from them while they were questioning his son about why he was sitting in front of his own house. So Ron Rowlett, members of the council, Chief John Carley, get your police under control. Protect your community from a department that has clearly abandoned the code that they swore to uphold to protect their people of their own community. Stop letting the police union protect criminals and hold them accountable for their actions. I mean, right now, the national spotlight.
I need you to wrap it up, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Don't make the mistake that the federal government and everybody else made, and make sure that you're doing what's right for your community. You're culpable for everything that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller, please.
CEO Kev, I'll open your mic.
Yes, hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I was calling because I recently saw the viral video of your police officer beating a dog. I'm very disgusted by it, but I also want to say that I really don't think that we should have dogs working so close to the public. Obviously, if there's a specific task for the dog, like sniffing out bombs or guns or drugs, then that's a different story. But these dogs have been used as a symbol of Black oppression. And I just don't think that it's appropriate for your Black and brown folks that live in your city. Obviously, there's been the Slave Act of 1850, where they basically slave hunters would use bloodhounds to chase slaves seeking freedom. And then we'll forward it to the civil rights movement of the 60s, where police used German Shepherds to basically have them attack protesters. So let's get to the point. I really want, this officer fired and his name to be released. Not because he's going to be in a threat, but because we don't want him to work in any other county or any other police department. If they're able to hire cops who murder people, then they will hire a dog beater any day. And there's basically, two options. It's getting him fired and or getting him better training, preferably the way your department treats dogs. You have the ability to defund the police and invest it back in the community. And that's something that I really hope you consider, because that's kind of how I'm going to see if you listen to our cries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Shannon Danley, I'll open your mic.
Where do I start? I've heard everybody mention the issue with the canine, the officer and the canine dog. And I think what people fail to realize, and Ron, you as a mayor of this city have an obligation to the city to take this lead in that leadership road and do what's right, especially when it comes to our police department. We all know about police brutality. Anybody that knows about it better, I think I know it myself. Chief Carley said at his town hall meeting that there was no such thing as systemic racism in his police force. The issue with this officer and this dog proves just that, which shows that we have an illiterate police chief that you put in place. I'm asking that you take a stance. Instead of keeping quiet about everything that's going on, put it out there. This city is a time bomb ticking, and we don't need it to uproar. People need to wake up. Vacaville is racist. We're not going to cure that overnight. It's always going to be around. Hate is always going to be around. We need to open our eyes, figure out a way that we can work together and get along. And it's on our mayor to take the necessary steps instead of hiding behind everything or talking behind closed doors. I'm a dog lover, don't get me wrong, but I'm frustrated with hearing people talk about a dog versus all the crap that Vacaville police officers have done to humans. I got pulled over just because the officer was having a bad day. And this, we need in-place training for all these officers. They believe they're the law and they're not. They're code enforcement. That's it. They're not lawyers. They don't know the law. They remember a bunch of codes and half of them don't even remember that. So I'm asking that you take a stance, do what's right, step up to the plate, and do your job as mayor. Lead the city the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Ravante Robinson, I'll open your mic.
Good evening, City Council. Am I in loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, for sure. First thing I want to address was the November 1st Trump rally in downtown Vacaville. I made a comment at the council meeting after that saying that, there was no police there, but, I was wrong. They were just off duty. They were in there kicking it with the Trump supporters. But hey, just like all around the nation, it's the same thing. Cops and Klan go hand in hand. And I mean, like everyone else is talking about, I want to talk about the dude, the police officer beating on the canine, punching the dog in the head. Like, I don't think it's okay for him to not have his face plastered all over Facebook, just like y'all do to people who got caught stealing from Target or Home Depot. Those are way less of a quote unquote crime than beating beating the dog. And speaking of Vacaville PD beating on people, I know y'all got Gomez versus City of Vacaville on the closed session tonight. The VVPD beat this dude and tased the man, and then his dad came out, and then they cracked his head this was all in front of his house. So I think Officer Bohm Officer Moore and Officer Larson should all be fired and prosecuted for assault and elderly abuse. And John Carley should be fired because he fosters this toxic, disgusting, violent, brutal culture that Vacaville has. Honestly, I would be a better police chief than John Carley. Police Chief Ravante 2020. If I was a police chief, there wouldn't have to be any protests. You heard people earlier saying they've been out here for 26 weeks. There's a reason. And so on January 20th, I'm going to be out there with the community in front of the city hall at 5, demanding justice, because I know we're not going to get it tonight. And there's also a video going around of a man being beat down and the police holding him down, trying to draw blood from him in the Vacaville PD police department. And oh, I forgot to mention, what about a couple months ago, Ron Roulette was at a rally with a bunch of Trumpers and a bunch of maskless people, and you supposed to be the mayor, and you out here kicking in with those kind of people. Those are the wannabe Proud Boys. Half of them was out on November 1st. I wonder if you were there now. And I had a good friend get arrested for going to the police station asking about the canine switch situation, which is messed up because he's a good dude and he fucking loves dogs. Oops, I cussed. My bad. I don't like to. Oh man, gosh darn it. Okay, well, have a good day. I know you're more upset about things than police brutality.
Next caller, please.
Sarah Palmisano, I'll open your mic.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So my statement is specifically to Ron, and I'm going to start with saying that this started with me, Julia, and Rovante, and we now have an army. The Vacaville PD culture is toxic and problematic, from the abuse of the canine officer to the several police brutality cases that have been settled quietly, including the one being discussed in tonight's closed session where an elderly Hispanic man's skull was cracked, his hearing was lost, and his orbital bone was broken when he was walking away from observing officers pull over another citizen. A past police union president accosted an ex-councilman and then candidate in broad daylight and suffered absolutely no consequences. Also, the police department asked us all to keep it quiet because they were quote unquote working on it, but that was months ago. No one suffers consequences for these actions in the PD. This is unacceptable and something must be done. Police cannot go unchecked, as we have now seen. This only leads to more abuse of power and of Vacaville citizens. Ron, you need to do better.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller, please.
Natalia Serrato, I'll open your mic.
Good evening. My name is Natalia Itzali Serrato. I'm the daughter of Santiago Serrato. It is a pleasure to be here under unfortunate circumstances. Good evening. I'm a concerned constituent and a resident of Vacaville. The reason for my call is to obviously address the dog beating by the police officer, but I also want to bring up some numbers about our community. The police department in Vacaville, specifically since 2017, this is some statistics from the policeresourcecard.org. There has been 13 deadly force incidents based on population. A Black person was 2 times as likely, and a Latinx person was 2 times as likely to have deadly force used on them than a white person in Vacaville from 2016 to 2018. Now, we are all here in regards to the canine, and poor thing, you know, that's obviously heavy on all of our hearts. And I'm very proud to hear other concerned constituents talking about police brutality against people of color here, specifically in the community of Vacaville. Raise your hand if you have been personally victimized by the Vacaville Police Department. You, a family member, a friend. Now raise your hand if you also happen to be a person of color. Okay. I know that my hand has been raised on both times, and there are probably other people on this call and in the city council meeting who can relate. It's very unfortunate. It's a systemic issue. It's not going to go away overnight. I think it's something that I'd like to put the work into fix. Again, I hope y'all are able to hear these messages from other residents and find it within your heart to address, you know, systemic issues, including police brutality against an animal. Not only should this person be fired, terminated, not allowed to be a police officer anymore, they should be charged to the fullest extent of the law for battering another police officer, because that's what the canine dogs are, aren't they? Another thing I'd like to leave on, defund the police, abolish ICE, and land back. Good night. Love y'all.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Lucy, I'll open your mic.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to talk about two things. I don't want to talk the dog thing to death, but I do just want to let it be known that some people don't even have kids. I myself, I am white. I'm scared for my dogs. I am single, so I walk with my dogs to protect me. And now I'm like, all right, well, my whiteness I know isn't going to protect me. These police aren't here for me. And now I have to watch out for my dog too, the other guy who's supposed to protect me. So that's upsetting. But the second thing I wanted to talk about was Kaylee Jefferson Hinkle's case. I'm not sure what kind of pull city council has over the police department, but my understanding of how it works is that you guys fund their budget. So I know you guys have some sort of say. And my understanding with Kaylee's case, the family is still waiting for an autopsy, and the physical evidence does not match the suicide ruling. And I am tired of that. I myself am also a victim of sexual abuse, which is my understanding what Kaylee's her body had markings that resembled a sexual assault. And that just, you guys already know that that's wrong. I know that you guys have spent a lot of time hearing us out, and I really appreciate that. But you guys really need to do something about this police department, because it's not just, oh, police brutality. Like, I am a person. We are people. We are hurting. We are scared. I am scared to go grocery shopping here because I know VVPD doesn't have my back. And I know the Trumpers are watching me because they've been seeing me at fucking protests too. And I'm scared. And I would like you guys to be able to help protect the entire fucking community. I'm sorry. My apologies for my language. I would like to see you guys protect everybody and do everything within your power. And if honestly, you guys find that you don't want to do that in this role, just resign. That's okay. No, it's okay to say that you weren't able to do the job, but I would like to see you guys try. And I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller, please.
Beatrice, I will open your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right, so I just want to say a couple things about Vacaville Police Department. I am so frustrated and sad to hear from this public comment for the first time that an elderly man was beaten so bad he lost his hearing. The Vacaville Police Department Facebook page loves to humiliate, people who are caught doing whatever. And I just want the same energy for this type of stuff. You guys talk about transparency, but that's not transparency. Y'all need to be posting about, where y'all mess up and post it on Facebook so we can all see, so we can all make sure that y'all are accountable, because we only know of these things because people raise their voices, people speak up, or we have to go, do our digging and searching to find out what's going on with the Vacaville PD. Obviously, you guys have a lot of scrutiny right now because of the canine incident, which this is the message also to the Vacaville community. Y'all wake up for this incident, but y'all don't wake up for police brutality when it comes to Black and brown folks in our community. It happens daily. It happens with people I know. People, close family friends, close friends have told me about circumstances they had with the police officers. And Chief Carly, he does nothing about it. I was at the town hall. I asked them about what happened on that summer night when, these kids, underage kids, were thrown to the ground, told the police officer was like, don't fuck with me or something like that. And Chief Carly, he just excused it all. There was no accountability. So I'm tired. I'm tired of coming on here and always talking about the same thing. This is also a message for city council members. You are hearing us loud and clear. So I really, really want y'all to use your voice and use it for the community who's speaking up, who's telling you, y'all need to take action. Y'all need to hear us. Yeah, I mean, I'm just disgusted because there's so many people here on this public comment today who talked about so many different police brutality incidents. And I don't know, take some action. Like, we're going to keep coming every time. So good night.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Giselle Cisneros, I'll open your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try and keep this brief because what I want to say has been reiterated many times. However, people of color obviously do not feel safe in Vacaville. We clearly see white supremacists feel a lot safer than your own constituents. Officer Love was seen at a pro-Trump, pro-racist rally with no mask on, no social distancing orders, and their group trashed the entire park. We see what kind of police force we have, and you guys have taken zero action to change that. You have the power to defund them, do so. It is imperative that the officer who brutalized that canine be fired immediately and his identity be revealed. We don't feel safe with him on our streets. If he brutalizes animals that way, imagine what he does to people when the camera isn't there. I've seen it. We've seen people been kidnapped. We've seen protesters be brutalized just for peacefully protesting. And it's obvious our most vulnerable communities are at stake. Our elderly, our people of color, even our dogs. No one feels safe in Vacaville. Do something about it.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Glitter Casket, I'll open your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, as was just pointed out all throughout this meeting, and I don't want to talk about this canine incident for too long anymore. If this officer is abusing canines in this manner, clearly there's something wrong with him enough to the point where he would abuse an animal, a defenseless creature, then imagine what he is doing to human beings. I would also like to point out that there is a houseless community member in Vacaville who has personally told us, because we, the people, help the houseless community in Vacaville, not the city council and not the police. This person told us that Vacaville police came out to him with guns drawn and stuck their dogs on him. This dog left a scar on his head and his hand so deep that it has still scarred for 3 years later. And he almost died from that incident. This was for a drug raid. Do you actually believe that this kind of behavior is acceptable? Because I think that most of the community here finds it reprehensible. For Vacaville police to be seen beating their canine means that they are actually probably using a dogfighting tactic, which is inflicting trauma on dogs to make them more aggressive intentionally. And that is very, very sick. His name absolutely should be released, because if we're releasing the names of everybody else who commits a crime in this community, then the police officers here should not be held to a different standard than anybody else. He needs to be held accountable. He needs to be fired. Vacaville police not only needs to be defunded, but needs to be abolished, because clearly they are so incompetent that they do not know how to handle animals and they do not know how to handle human beings. It's sick. It's ridiculous. And I do not want to hear another statement from Vacaville police or the city council about this canine. What you guys need to address is how you treat people, especially people of color, how you treat protesters, essentially telling them whatever happens to them in the streets is their fault and that we will be held liable. That is not okay. And I don't want to hear another statement about it where all you do is lie. You guys need to start holding them accountable. See you Sunday. See you every Sunday. Justice for Kaylee. Abolish the police. Land back.
Okay, next caller, please.
Andrea, I will open your mic.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to echo what everyone else has said. This town is not safe for people of color. And I don't understand how you guys can sit there and think it is, think that you guys are doing something to help us when you are not. This police that you have out in these streets abuse their power. They're abusing an animal. They're abusing human beings out in these streets. Are you not disgusted with yourselves? You're supposed to be here to help us. You're supposed to be here to help the community. And you're out here letting them run wild and attacking people. Do you not care about human beings? Is it because they're brown and black, so they don't get the same as their white counterparts? This is not fair for us. We're tired. And that's why we are protesting. And that's why we keep on protesting. So we need you guys to be held accountable. And we're tired of this shit. We're tired of not being able to go out to a store or even drive our car because we don't know if that's the day a cop is going to pull us over and decide that they will end our life. Why have you not done more? This is outrageous. And I'm shaking because I'm so angry. You people have so much power and you have done nothing to help us. Are you not tired of hearing us cry? Are you not tired by now? We have been screaming for months now. This is a sundown town. If you don't know what that means, look it up. It means that we are not safe here. When the sun goes down, brown and black people do not want to be here. Do you want to run a town that is like that? Do you want a community that is scared? Because I don't want to live here. I don't want to bring my kids out here. So you need to do better, every single one of you, because we're out here in these streets doing your job. We're out here feeding the houseless. We're out here giving them the mask, the hand sanitizer, and food, and trying to get them jobs. And that should be your job, not ours, because we live below the poverty level, and somehow we still make it work for these people. And that should be a shame to you. And I yield my time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Wendy Brecken, I'll open your mic.
Hello. I just wanted to say that with the new laws that have been enacted recently, there's going to be a decrease in city immunity from liability for use of force. And there's going to be more of a need to produce data on incidents where there's been use of force. So with the new laws, there's also decertification of officers if they've been using excessive force and other violations. So it might be good to have a city council agenda item where the new laws are discussed and analyzed, as well as recent incidents. Maybe have the police department, talk about what their policies are a little bit. But I mean, basically, it seems like there needs to be more data, that there needs to be a look at procedures and protocol, and maybe more training and things like that. And to just get the new council to, get a feeling of, what is all the data, and do data-driven solutions to what appears to be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Karen Parks, I'll open your mic.
Karen, are you there? I see you're still on mute. Karen? There you go. Karen, are you there? Karen? the last caller, so I can't do anything else besides hopefully, I see she's off mute now. I don't know. She just cannot hear us.
Karen, it's possible that the phone that you're on is also muted. You might check
It could
that.
be, yeah, the computer and the phone. Is the mute button on my screen, is that their computer?
Correct. The computer is open.
So that
Could be the
her phone is muted. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to close public comment if we don't see something. Karen, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the City Council. It's gone now. Okay. I'm going to close public comment. I don't see any hands from any City Council members, so we'll move on to item 9A. Well, 8. We have no public comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. City Manager, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to, just because tonight we've heard from a lot of folks with a lot of emotion and a lot of comments tonight about our police department. And while I'm not going to be able to address those tonight, obviously, I do want to share with the council and the community that a very top important priority for this organization is providing excellent policing and community services that both the city and our community can be supportive of and proud of. So in that regard, and in the spirit of continuous improvement, and to address the ever-changing paradigms that we see in the policing field right now across the country, at the state level, and here locally, and is equal importance to address the concerns that have been expressed by the community both tonight and all the way back to that town hall meeting last year. I've been working on a variety of multiple ways to strategically evaluate and improve upon the department services and operations that are provided to our community. So what I wanted to share with the council and the community is that to accomplish this effort, I will be presenting a proposal at the February City Council meeting as part of our discussion for the City Council strategic plan, a comprehensive evaluation of the police department operations and their efforts by an independent consultant who will continue to work with us on evaluating all these things to make sure that everyone is satisfied with the efforts that we're putting forward for the community. In addition to this effort, we will continue to develop and expand upon the focus group efforts that we put together last year related to our social justice issues that will continue to focus on the issues of community safety and inclusion and equity. And so we'll also be talking about that at the strategic plan meeting in February. So this is something that is important to us, and we will continue to work on this effort and present that to the council for your consideration in February. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to item 9.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, where's council comments?
Council comments can come at where we go to reports of the City Council, item 10A.
Thank
or
you.
10.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move to item 9A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into an agreement with New Image Landscape Company for citywide landscape maintenance services in the amount of just over $1 million annually, and a one-time budget adjustment for the 2021 fiscal operating budget in the amount of $29,030. Brian McLean is here to make a presentation for us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Crystal, next slide, please. Through a landscape maintenance contract, the city maintains approximately 300 acres of landscaping across a wide spectrum of areas, including street setback, median islands, areas adjacent to city facilities, and city rights-of-way. Our existing contract with Dominguez Landscaping that was executed in 2013 expires at the end of this month. Next slide, please. Due to the expiring contract in October 2020, Public Works issued a request for proposals for the maintenance of the city's contracted maintenance areas. The base term of the agreement is 2 years with 5 two-year option extensions. Public Works conducted a mandatory pre-bid meeting on October 22nd of last year, which was attended by 6 contractors. Next slide. By the November 5th, 2020 bid due date, the city received 4 proposals. The proposal submitted by Dominguez Landscaping Services, the city's incumbent vendor, was found to be non-responsive as 4 of the 6 evaluation sections were not submitted. The remaining 3 proposals were advanced to the evaluation committee. The evaluation committee independently scored the proposals by the 5 RFP published scoring criteria, including sufficient experienced personnel for the project, landscape maintenance experience, approach to work tasks and schedule, work references, and fee. Next slide. Upon the completion of the scoring and summation of the total scores, a New Image Landscaping Company was ranked number 1, as you can see from the matrix here. New Image Landscaping Company's bid proposal for the 2-year base term is $1,012,320 annually. Staff subsequently performed a comparative cost analysis of our current vendor's annual costs and that of the proposed cost by New Image Landscaping Company. Dominguez Landscaping's annual cost to the city of approximately $963,000 has not changed since 2013. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows an 11.7% CPI increase from 2013 to current. Applying that 11.7% to our current expenditure with Dominguez Landscaping results in a cost of approximately $1,077,000. That puts the New Image Landscaping proposal at about $64,000 than the expected CPI adjusted amount of our current Dominguez Landscaping agreement. New Image Landscaping Company has 24 years of experience. The evaluation committee found their experience, detailed proposal, and proposed fee to be a benefit to the city of Vacaville. Next slide. In terms of fiscal impact, the city's landscape maintenance contract is funded by general fund for general fund landscape areas and landscape and lighting district levy funds for landscape and lighting district areas. A one-time general fund increase of $29,030 is required to cover the remaining 5 months of the current fiscal year. And in fiscal year 21-22, the impact to the general fund would be $69,672. Next slide. The recommendation is by simple motion, adopt the subject resolution, and that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I see no questions from the city council. I will open it up to public comment. I do see one hand up for public comment.
Bailey Nichols, I'll open your mic.
Hi. I wanted to ask if they're going to pick up the garbage on the side of the road.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to answer that? Mr. McLean, did you want to answer that?
We are out there every day picking up garbage. We can't get every piece, obviously, but if there's a particular area that the caller is interested in me taking a look at, the city's public works maintenance section will certainly go out there and take a look and investigate the area.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. I see no other hands up.
I have a quick question.
Public comment. I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the city council. And we'll start with you, Councilmember Silva.
Apologize, Ron and Mayor Ron and everyone else. I couldn't find my imaginary hand here. Just quick question on a dump site. So like certain citizens, sometimes we notice that, you know, they have a load and they just straight up dump on the side of the road. I know it's, you know, a problem just not only city limits, but the county as well. Why we don't have jurisdiction in the county. Can you maybe explain that? Would that be something that this would involve, or is that a different process?
That's a great question. That's a different process entirely. This is the landscape contract. That's what you're talking about is illegal dumping, and we do have that situation occurring within the city limits. Thankfully, the numbers are fairly low. The annual numbers of that are fairly low, and because it's typically a very constrained area, the cleanup typically takes less than 15 minutes. So it is an impact for sure, for certain. Public Works does pay for those cleanups out of its operating budget, but they are not a systemic issue at this point.
So I live out here in Markham. There's some areas that have a few piles of trash that's been there a while. If citizens want to report that, or what is the process to report that? And I don't know if that's your area, Brian, or maybe the city manager can help address that.
I can help you out with that. Okay. Call Public Works. Our maintenance number is 707-469-6500. And all you need to do is report the area and the issue, and we'd be happy to go out and take a look.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
I have Councilmember Wiley.
Hi, thank you for this. And it is such an important job to have the city well maintained. And I just thought that the contract was really laid out nicely. It had very specific things that were expected. And if this company is able to know that ahead of time and say that they will, you know, complete all parts of this, I think it will be great for our city. And it did mention litter removal just as a general business when they had that in the landscaping, including, you know, political signs and things like that. So I just thought the contract was well done, and thanks for finding a company that will do that.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Hey, a quick question, Mr. McLean. There's a super easy email to report public works issues, trash, irrigation, outlights. Do you recall that email address off the top of your head? I've given it out a couple times, and it's just a really easy resource for folks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. It's kind of a long email. We suggest if you call, that's the fastest way.
Okay.
We do have our email address. It's corpyardworkorders@cityofvacaville.com. But we find that sometimes people misspell some of the front of the email address. You can also reach us by going to the city's website, looking for the Public Works section, and that email link is on that website as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I'm going to entertain motion.
I'll move it to Sullivan.
Silva, second.
I have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Mayor Rowlett.
Aye. We'll move to item 9B. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This next item is a resolution of the City Council approving the extension of the Senior Hot Meals program for the remainder of the fiscal year with a budget adjustment to the fiscal year operating budget in the amount of $35,000. Terry Walker, our Parks and Recreation Director, will have a brief presentation for you.
Good evening. This is actually Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo. I'll be making the presentation this evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Tonight, I have the pleasure of presenting on our Senior Hot Meals program. I ask you to just please note that there was an error on the agenda listing of this item. Just after the staff contact information, it states to approve the use of state allocated CARES Act funds to support this program. However, that is not correct. The details following that sentence where it says fiscal impact and states that funding would be approved from general fund reserves until CDBG funds are approved for use by HUD and or additional federal or state funding becomes available. That's the correct information. So I just wanted to clear up any confusion out the gate on that. Next slide. So a little history on our program. The city of Vacaville led the way, being one of the first to start a senior helpline. This began in March within the first days of the initial shelter at home order. And through hard work from both staff and volunteers, the program quickly became a well-oiled machine. About a month into the operations of the senior helpline, it became clear that the bulk of our resources were needed to support the senior hot meal program component. Of course, we continue to offer additional services such as home checkups, pickups, and drop-off of essential supplies and daily and weekly phone calls to seniors. Next slide. As you read in the staff report, tonight we are requesting $35,000 from the general fund reserves to support the continuous delivery of hot meals from local restaurants to 55 seniors 3 times per week. It's important to note that this program not only supports our seniors, but also puts money in the pockets of our local restaurants who are so heavily impacted right now. Next slide. The recommendation tonight is to approve the use of general fund reserves to extend the Senior Hot Meals program through the end of the fiscal year. Next slide. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give a huge thank you to our sponsors, participating restaurants, advocates, and volunteers, specifically Faith in Action, who has been is a nonprofit program that has been working tirelessly with the Parks and Recreation Department from the beginning to help make this program successful. At this time, I will happily take any questions.
I have no questions from the council. Oh, well, hold on. I have Councilmember Stockton.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that local restaurants, that this is also helping them. If there are local restaurants that are interested in participating in this program, what do they need to do to sign up or become involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can contact our staff, and I will get you that number in just a second here. So basically, in order to qualify, there's no application. They just need to reach out to us. They can email us at recweb@cityofvacaville.com, and we can just get connected to see if the scheduling matches up. So we are specifically looking at, kind of our smaller businesses and restaurants that are impact and that are really just able to work with the timeline of our volunteers and schedules and the needs of our seniors.
Thank you.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Melody. I just a quick question, and if the answer is not there today, it's just like a follow-up later on. So the funding source, I'm just curious. Coming from HUD, is this coming from funds that can be used for housing?
I would have to defer to our housing director, other staff. Anyone on the line that can answer that?
This is Emily Cantu, the Housing Services Director, and the HUD funding that can be used for the senior hot meals once approved by HUD was previously approved by the City Council for that use. So it's not taking from another planned use for those funds.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just questioning if we're allocating funds that can go towards helping address housing over food. I'm definitely not opposed to finding a way to support the meals. This is actually something that my mom personally was able to benefit from, and so I know a lot of seniors are really grateful for this, and so I definitely appreciate that. So that's just where my question was coming from, and thank you, Emily, for answering.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I've got a couple questions and comments. First, Melody, I absolutely love this program, and I think it was such a spectacular way to sort of repurpose staff and kind of pivot to to serve some of the most vulnerable folks in our community. So thank you so much to you and your whole team. Just really, really impressed with the whole operation. And a big thank you to all the donors, volunteers, et cetera, et cetera. A couple programmatic questions, and then I have some questions, and I'm not sure if it could be for you or for Emily or for Aaron. So the first question is, how do seniors, so let's say someone's hearing about this tonight, how do they enroll in the service? I'm sorry if I missed that.
No, absolutely. So they can contact us, and the number, this is for seniors or restaurants that want to participate, really anyone that wants to get in contact with us regarding this program, 707-449-5100, and then you want to press 0. And I'll say that one more time for anyone writing it down, 707-449-5100, and press 0. That's the best way to get a hold of us. You can also email seniorhelpline@cityofvacaville.com. Lots of ways, and check us out on the city website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much on that one. And if there's any way that we can advertise maybe at City Coach bus stops or maybe in the Leisure Town magazine or other places where folks who may be food insecure would see that, that would be awesome. Again, such a wonderful, amazing program. My second question, and so kind of my day job in Yolo County, I actually do quite a bit of this myself. We're kind of trying to figure out the gaps right now. Like, who are we missing, right? So you've got Meals on Wheels, you've got the food bank, you've got all the local faith-based communities kind of filling all these gaps. And now you have the city with this fantastic program. And in Yolo, we have a very similar setup. So here, I know we have this program, Meals on Wheels. What's kind of their current status? What are they doing or what are they not? And then really my larger question, though, is are there gaps? Are we missing any people? And, I know we have the Church of Epiphany doing their thing, which is amazing. I believe every Friday night. We have a couple local churches and a local kind of food pantry here that do some amazing stuff. How do we know that we're getting everybody that needs it, or do we know that?
So we did a really aggressive campaign, specifically advertised as the Senior Helpline. This was at the onset of the pandemic back in March, and we really went through kind of those following months. And that's where we identified, that this was kind of where the program need was most highly required, and then it kind of have filled in. And so, as I mentioned, we are still doing other things like getting grocery deliveries. Some of these sponsors, what you see up there, they're providing free groceries. We work with Meals on Wheels. We've done a special Thanksgiving meal for folks, have an extra hot meal, if you will. So that's where we're talking to our seniors every day. And that number that I gave out, I'm encouraging people to call it. If there's a need out there, we want to hear about it. And if it's something that we can support, that's what we're here to do, is support our community.
Awesome. Super, super impressive. Again, I really appreciate everything you and staff are doing, and our volunteers and donors. So these are two kind of one-off questions that really aren't related to the Senior Meals Program, Ellie, but they're in the same vein. I think they're paid for out of the same funding stream. So I was going to maybe wait till council member comments, but I figure I'll just put it out here, and city manager let me know if I should wait till comments. But I really am concerned about the warming shelter being closed. The warming shelter is actually going to close down at the end of next month. It's still very, very, very cold in March and even April. And we're not really using the George Duke facilities because of COVID anyways. I guess what I'm asking for is that staff and Melody, I'm not sure if you're involved in this or not, bring back a discussion on an extension for the warming shelter. And I'd also like to talk about an extension of hours. So that's one question. So I'm hoping that can come back to council for discussion, and ideally extension sooner than later. So the O House crew and whatever city staff are working on that can stand for that. The second question I have is kind of in a similar vein. With COVID right now, there's no public restrooms. And so I know the city has done some creative stuff with porta potties and portable toilets and public restroom access. Can we have an update as well on what we're doing for our neighbors outside during kind of COVID, where there's nowhere to use the restroom? What does the council need to extend anything? What's the status on the public restrooms as well? So Aaron, Emily, Melody, I'm not sure if those two go to you, but what do we do with those two items?
So if I could, Vice Mayor, with regards to the request to put an item on the agenda to discuss the extension of that program, I would suggest that we bring that up under reports from City Council, and we follow the policies and procedures to place an item on the agenda. So we can bring that up at that point. And then with regards to the bathroom facilities, we did add additional porta potty facilities out there in response to the need, so that during, while the shelter is closed and the occupants that utilize that facility are out and about, they have an opportunity to use those facilities. And then, of course, when the facility opens up at 5, they can use the facilities in the Duke. But
do we have
can
hand washing out there, Aaron?
Not certain. We did on the first time that we did that. If not, we can certainly add that as another feature.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll bring up the other items at the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's open it up to public comment. Santiago has been waiting patiently.
I'll yield. Vice Mayor Sullivan answered the question I had for see how do people get sponsored or how seniors can sign up for this.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Next caller.
Julia Ralston-Thomas, I'll open your mic.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask about, so I love the Senior Meals on Wheels program, but I'm wondering about food insecurity for the rest of the community. If there's any effort to get money to any sort of additional resources. Essentially, a lot of the federal response has been limited and cut. Food banks are overrun with people. So basically, what is the city doing for people outside of the senior food insecure group for that? Thank you.
Can we get an answer to that question, please?
One thing I can share that's a great resource is the Food Bank of Contra Costa in Solano County. I have been out there personally on different projects, just kind of connecting with community members prior to our shelter at home order. But, they had a plentiful offering. So I'm looking up right now, they're just foodbankccs.org, and they were giving away, bags, full grocery bags to every person. So, come in with your family and each person can walk away with quite a bit of food that can help, obviously nourish. And so I would just look to that resource. They actually will station up by Trower Park in front of the Boys and Girls Club. So that is a great resource, and definitely look up when they are there. I can try and come back to that and get that information.
Thank you. I'm going to close public comment. Maybe I'm not. I think we have
Edward
one more.
Russell?
Yeah, one more caller, please.
I'll open your mic.
Yeah, so I think this is always a great program, because everybody can't get out and about. So I think this is outstanding. But what just really stands out in my mind, along with, and I'll tie in the Boys and Girls Club, their presentation also, is the absolute elephant in the room. Again, these are great people doing great things for people they don't even know. It's just their community they're looking out for. And yet there's still this need for sponsors. There's this need for volunteers. There's this need for advocates. Again, you can tie that with the Boys and Girls Club. Imagine if the leadership of a city was fiscally responsible and did not allow 40% of its budget to go to one entity that abuses humans and canines and turns their back on citizens when they're in the most need. Imagine a community that had a leader and leaders that were so consumed with the holistic value of human life that they would be responsible enough to disseminate the city budget in a fair manner, to where the programs that are designed to help our youngest and our oldest fellow human beings wouldn't have to, I don't want to say beg for money, not saying they beg, I'm just saying it wouldn't be so much of a struggle to look for sponsors and volunteers and advocates because they would have surplus of money. So again, I just want to point out the elephant in the room, like how much easier would this job be, and along with the Boys and Girls Club and other organizations that apply or assist with the human spirit of taking care of one another. So thank you and have a great evening.
Great comments. Thank you very much. Next caller.
Harry, I'll open your mic.
Sir, are you there? I see your mic is muted. Okay, he took his hand down. I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the City Council, and I'll go with Councilmember Silva, please.
I said my comment earlier, but I'll just reiterate. No, I really appreciate this program. And if there's no other comments, I'll move to approve.
Perfect. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I have a second. Wiley.
Perfect. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Aye. We will move to item 9C, COVID update, and I believe I'm just going to go straight to Chief Conception. Chief, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm going to give you our the same update that I give you every council meeting. It's been 5 weeks, I believe, since my last update, and unfortunately, I don't have very much good news. Next slide, please, Crystal. So in California now, we're up to 2,700,000 or a little over 2.7 million cases. Just to remind you folks, the last time we spoke on December 8th, that number was less than 1.4 million. So we've had almost a doubling in the number of cases in California in that 5-week period. In that same 5-week period, we're now up to over 30,000 deaths. So that was 10,000 in that 5-week period as far as deaths in the state of California. 14-day positivity stands at 13.5%. Closer to home here in Solano County, we're now up to 23,554 cases. That's up from 5 weeks ago, 11,747 cases. So we have more than doubled here in Solano County. And the concerning number that is there is the number of active cases that we have, 2,439 active cases, up from 1,080 back 5 weeks ago. And the number of hospitalized patients that we have with active cases is at 173 right now. Compare that to 68 5 weeks ago. Deaths were up to 103. And the 7-day positivity here in Solano County is 26.4, meaning that a little more than 1 out of every 4 people that get tested is testing positive for the virus. Here in Vacaville, unfortunately, we have surpassed 6,000 cases. We have more than doubled in the last 5 weeks, and there's an article that shows that we were actually doing better than the bigger cities here in Solano County as far as cases per 100,000, and we have caught up, unfortunately, in that number to Fairfield and Vallejo. So we are up there as far as number of cases. Next slide, please. As far as the current status is concerned, we went into shortly after I think a week after our council meeting in December, we went to the expanded stay-at-home orders, which are more restrictive. Specifically, barbers and hair salons could no longer operate indoors. And then as far as our restaurants, they were not allowed to do outdoor dining at all. So it was just takeout only. So We're part of the Bay. Just to remind you, we're part of the Bay Area region, and we went to those expanded stay-at-home orders when our ICU bed availability in the region went below 15%. Right now, it sits at 4.7% for the region, and in our county, it's at 5%. We went into that expanded stay-at-home order on December 17th of 2020, and that was for at least 3 weeks. It's been more than 3 weeks, but with our ICU bed availability down where it is right now, I don't foresee, and the experts that we speak to on a regular basis don't foresee that being lifted anytime soon. Some good news is the vaccination program in Solano County has started. I know that a lot of the healthcare workers have received their vaccine. As far as the city employees are concerned, our firefighters, because they're considered healthcare workers, of those that decided or that they wanted the vaccine, they have at least received their first dose already. And then in the city of Vacaville, our ambulance transports, as you know, we're the only public agency transport agency in the county. And our ambulance transports with regard to COVID are way up. We're projected this month in January over the same period last year to transport 40% more patients than we did. And according to my staff, they're saying that we, in the last couple of weeks, we are transporting 6 times the number of COVID patients than we were as compared to just a few weeks ago. So that's a little bit concerning. And then one thing that you may have seen in the news is last Friday, we deployed 3 of our paramedics to help with the COVID effort. They are working a 2-week assignment, so they're provided as part of the state effort on a mutual aid basis. They're working at Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa, and they're helping with the COVID efforts there. So that is the update that I have, and then I'm going to turn it over to our housing director, Emily Cantu, to give you some of the decent news as far as some of the efforts that we're doing as far as locally with COVID.
Thank you, Chief. I wanted to give you an update tonight on the Vacaville CARES Small Business Grant Program. That program ended on December 30th based on the state required deadline to expend those funds. With that program, we were able to award grants to 40 local businesses, spending about $481,250. Then update on the winter sheltering program that is being operated by Vacaville Solano Services Corporation. It started November 25th. It is going to end at this time at the end of February, end of next month. It continues as a 12-hour program through the nighttime hours till early morning. Is constantly staffed with 2 staff people, and there are a couple on-call staff and staff that drop in periodically as well. To date, they have had 144 participants in the program, and that includes 10 youth and 10 seniors. 574 sheltered bed nights total. Over 1,700 meals have been provided as each participant receives 3 meals while they're there. They're providing showers. There's a list there as well for you to see the other things that the program's providing. Next slide, please. And just a reminder, anyone who's interested in donating towards the winter sheltering program, the Opportunity House thrift store on Peabody Road is taking blankets, pillows, sleeping bags, some clothing items. and the Opportunity House homeless shelter on Bennett Hill Court is taking any food donations. And that is the update I had for this evening.
Thank you very much. We have Councilmember Silva.
All right, thank you for the update and presentation. Just 2 questions, and perhaps this is for Chief. Is there sufficient PPE for our public safety personnel and other at-risk employees within our city?
Yes, we're monitoring that constantly, and at this point, we are good as far as PPE is concerned.
All right, thank you. And maybe I'm not sure who else could be able to answer this, but one of the things that was coming up from local business owners is whether or not there's any help or funds to help support or purchase PPE and other supplies for their businesses. I know that certain counties that have higher populations were eligible for more funds, but is that something with this new round of funding that be coming up? I'm just curious if that's something we think that we may be able to look into to support PPE and supplies for local businesses.
Yeah, this is Emily. And yeah, should there be additional funding available for small business grants, we can certainly look at PPE as an eligible expense.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stockton.
Thank you for the presentation, Chief. In your presentation, it showed that there's currently 2,439 active cases in Solano County. Do we know how many of those are in Vacaville?
I don't have the number of active cases within specifically just the city.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you very much. This comment is probably for City Manager and Don Burris and Tim Patton. So we're heading into another year. We know that the vaccine curve is probably somewhere 6 months to a year out from where we're at this point to really kind of reach kind of the point we need to reach. I'm really hoping that we can kind of, I really appreciate all that we've done so far. We had some stumbles last year with funding issues and kind of, found our way and found our footing. We've got some pretty solid programming now in terms of business supports and then senior meals and the winter shelter and things of that sort. I think, honestly, though, I'm guessing that the new council is going to have maybe a different, just maybe some different thoughts on what we can do with COVID now. And so I guess I'm personally really hoping we can kind of double our efforts, really kick things into overdrive, really kind of go crazy on how we support local businesses, really open up the coffers and start dumping some money in the local economy. And I know some of the new council members probably have thoughts on these things as well. Can we quickly, sometime soon, agendize maybe some sort of directional discussion where council gives you direction on kind of our response to COVID, specifically on business support and support of vulnerable residents and whatever we can do to, as a city, kind of combat COVID? Is there an opportunity for us to have that discussion at some point in time soon?
Vice Mayor, this is Aaron. So with regards to that subject, if you recall, the council approved authorizing the use of CARES funds for an economic recovery strategy that has been completed. And we anticipate bringing that back to the council in the next meeting or two. And that would be a great opportunity to go ahead and have that kind of discussion as we present that recovery strategy to the council for consideration and approval.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have no other council comments. I'm going to open it up to the public. I believe Julia is waiting. Can we open the mic?
Hey, everybody. So one question, one point. So for the vaccines, I'm just wondering if we have any numbers as to people that are either waiting to take the vaccine or are refusing to take the vaccine. I'm just wondering if we have any indication of where we're going to be in 6 months to a year So with regards to that, and then for the winter shelter, I just want to reiterate Nolan's point that it should be at least extended for another month. March is still really cold. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next caller. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? There was a question on there. Chief, would you like to answer that question?
So as I think the question was, what is the percentage of folks that are willing to take the vaccine? I don't have those numbers specifically as far as the whole group that has been. It's primarily healthcare workers at this point. That's where the county plan is so far. But I don't have specific numbers on what percentage of people that have been offered the vaccine have taken it and how many have refused it.
All right, thank you. Next caller is Gloria.
Hi, good evening. I was wondering if you have any information to share about where the spread is primarily coming from in Vacaville.
Chief, do you have that information tonight?
Sure. So in our conversations with the public health officer, and we have a couple of conference calls with the public health officer every week, and the surge is in his comments that we've heard, he expects that the surge that we've experienced in the last couple of weeks. Well, first we had the Thanksgiving surge, and then that kind of tapered off, and then unfortunately we had Christmas, and then that caused a surge from Christmas gatherings. That caused a surge, and then now what we're experiencing as far as the spike in cases again is he thinks is from the New Year's Eve gatherings. And so mostly as far as the spread, he is saying that the community spread is largely from the private gatherings that are happening.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to close public comment. I have no other hands, and we will move on to item 10A. Tonight we have the new city council assignments. I'm just going to run through all the assignments, and when I'm done running through them, if there's any comments from the council, I'd be happy to hear from them. I'm going to start from the Association of Bay Area Governments, ABAG, the General Assembly. I'm going to appoint Wiley and Silva. The next one would be Citizens Advisory Committee for California State Prison, Solano, California Medical Facility. I'm going to put Silva on that. The City of Vacaville Audit Review Committee. I'm going to ask Sullivan and Stockton to sit on that. The League of California Cities North Bay Division, all city council members will be on that. The Play for All Park Task Force. I currently sit on that. I will continue to sit on that. The 4 Cs is always done with the mayor. The Mayor's Committee is always done with the mayor. The Solano County Water Agency is always the mayor and the vice mayor. The Solano Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors is always done by the mayor. The Solano Irrigation District Master Agreement Subcommittee was canceled, so we are not filling that position. Solano Transportation Authority is the mayor and the vice mayor. The Solano Water Authority is the mayor and the vice mayor. The Travis Community Consortium is, I'm going to assign Roberts to that. And then the Travis Regional Armed Force Committee. I actually got approval to put everyone on that. So every council member that's interested in going to that, they're more than welcome to join in on that committee. I will ask that Roberts and Stockton, report back from those meetings. So we are going to start having reports back from all these committee meetings. And I would appoint those two to come back and give us a report from those meetings. The Vacaville Dixon Greenbelt Authority, I would like Wiley and Sullivan to sit on that. The Vacaville Fairfield Greenbelt Authority would be Roberts and Wiley. The Yellow Solano Air Quality Management, I would like Wiley and Silva to sit on that. The Vacaville Solano County Homeless 2x2, I would like Sullivan and Stockton to be on that. And then I made a phone call to the school board, Vacaville Unified School Board. We had a 2x2 committee, 2 council members and 2 board members from the Vacaville Unified School District, along with our city manager and the Vacaville Unified School District, I don't know her title, excuse me, Jane Shamia. We all would meet once a month, I believe. And when COVID came about, we kind of put it to a side, but I don't want to put that aside anymore. I think it's very important. And now that we have 7 members of the council, I would like to make it a 3x3 instead of a 2x2. And the 3 that I would like to appoint to that would be Silva, Sullivan, and Stockton. And that's the superintendent. I don't know why I blanked out. The superintendent, Jane Shamia, was part of that. So I did talk to the chair of the Vacaville Unified School District, and that's Michael Kitsis, and informed him that I would like to move it to a 3x3. He was inclined to do that. He just wants to take it to his board. If the board, for whatever reason, wants to keep it a 2x2, then we'll have to revisit it. But for now, I would like to keep it the 3x3 with those 3. And with that, if anybody has any questions, any concerns, if not, I'll that's my motion. So I would take a second and ratify it with the council.
I'll second it, Ron, but I have a couple comments if I can. This is Nolan.
Sure. Why don't we take your comments? Are they on this, or do you want to comment on something else?
They are. There's comments on this.
Oh yeah, please feel free then.
Yeah. So my first comment was I wanted to stress the mandatory reporting requirement, and you mentioned that. I really appreciate you mentioning that. So fellow council members, we are, I guess the expectation that Ron and I sort of discussed, and I hope you'll agree with that, is that after we go to these different meetings, at the next council meeting, you'll do a 1 or 2 sentence, 3 sentence, 4 sentence report out on kind of what happened at that meeting in the council member comments. That just hasn't been practiced before, and I'm just hoping we can do that to keep everyone informed. The second comment I have is I did want to thank the mayor for how he handled this. We talked offline quite a bit. I know he had conversations with each of you on this as well, and I just really appreciated kind of the open dialogue and the way that he went about this process. And the only request I have for staff is that maybe we mention next time before this process starts, just so the public kind of knows what we're doing. The more stuff we can do kind of in the public, the better. The more we can notice public on what's happening, the better. But I really did appreciate the mayor's care and courtesy with the council members on this one. So thanks again, Ron. The only last little side comment I have, and I'm guilty of this myself, is we often forget Travis Unified School District. And I'm not sure if they would be inclined to have some sort of 2x2 or formal connection, but maybe staff can put out a call. Or Jeanette, I know you've got connections. I would love to meet with BUSD, and I'm excited we're getting the 3x3s up, but maybe we also approach Travis to see if they would have a similar interest. But those are my only comments. I appreciate the care and time you put into this, and I second your motion.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And yeah, actually, we used to have in the past, we used to have Solano Community College, Travis Unified, Vacaville Unified, and the city all get together. And I would entertain even bringing that back if we want to, talk about that at a later date. I would have no problem bringing that back. I think all of these partnerships and trying to make sure that we're all on the same page as a city and a school district would be great. So I think that's a great comment, and I do appreciate your comments. The one other thing, you know what, let's take this. We have a motion and a second. but I do want to comment on something else. So with that, I guess we'll do roll call vote. Is there anyone that objects to what I just said? Okay, if that, then I'll just say it's unanimous, if that's fine with everyone. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and that's...
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, you do need to do a roll call vote.
The roll call vote? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
we'll,
sorry
we'll
about
roll
that.
call vote. We have a first and a second. We'll roll call vote.
Councilmember Silva.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Hi. The second item I wanted to bring up is the item of the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Planning Commission. Typically, as per past practice, the mayor and the vice mayor, or the mayor and another council member, typically get together, do interviews. We open up, well, applications are always open, I believe, but we open it up for March. There's certain members that are up. It's a 2-year assignment for each Parks and Recreation and the Planning Commission. And there's 3 and then there's 4, and they go back and forth every year. I had a conversation with Vice Mayor Sullivan, and I would like to bring it back to the city council to where now, since we have 7 people on this council, I would like to take that out of the hands, not this year, but next year, and look at just giving each district 1 person to appoint from their district. And then obviously the mayor can appoint from, the city. So that way everyone from each district has their own representative, and they all get to have the opportunity to appoint someone to both the Planning Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I guess I'll make that in a form of a motion so we can make it official. But I would just ask the city council, we don't need to get it on to any, we don't need to bring it as quickly up to the city council, because I would like to just continue on, have Nolan and myself do the interviews like we did at past practice, and then get it onto agenda. So next year, this year we would do a 1-year term for everyone. So next year, all the terms would be up, and that way everyone would be able to choose somebody, because right now there's going to be at least 3 people that are still within their term, if that makes sense. So, and I'm going to ask actually the city attorney, is that okay that I ask for that, that to be agendized and have the council approve that?
Yes, I think you should follow our agenda policy, where there's a motion and a second and a vote to put that on a future agenda.
Perfect. So I guess my motion would be, we'll follow past procedures so we can get the interview started, get the applications coming in, and do myself and the Vice Mayor Sullivan do the interviews and appoint 1 year for the planning and parks, so that next year we can all have our individual deals. But let's put that on the agenda, and I'll make that in a form of motion, if that's not a sloppy motion. Is there a second to that?
Jeanette's got her hand up on.
Oh, I apologize. Council Member Wiley.
Wait. Well, I just have one question about your motion. So if in the future we did it then by districts, I wasn't quite understanding what you were saying about when they would be open. Is it a possibility that you would have 6 new members on the Planning Commission or 6 new members on the Parks and Recs? Because that's kind of an issue sometime. And other than that, I second your motion to put it on the agenda for a later time.
Yeah, it would. And that's a concern of mine too. However, it's the most fair, so every district would be able to choose their person, because right now there's a group of people that have theirs through next year. We would be able to choose, every person would be able to choose their own district as of next year. And then we would go and stagger it from there on forward. I would propose, and we have this on the agenda, we can discuss it further, but I would propose that 2, 4, and 6 get the 2-year extension, and then 1, 3, 5, and the mayor would get the 1 year because it's going to be on election cycle next year. But we can discuss that further and make sure that everybody's on board with that. I'm just trying to get the applications going for this time and bring the item back to us so we can discuss next year's way of doing the appointments to those 2 commissions. And if you're okay with that, I'll take your second and I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Sorry, guys. One quick question. So would this come back up on our next council meeting and before
I said in my motion, I don't think it needs to, we're going to follow what we've been doing, the policies that we've been doing. So that gets us till March. I'm not saying let's jam it in there. I'm sure the city manager will find a good place to put it in. I'm not asking for it to be quick because we have until next March, but we absolutely will bring it back before the end of the year. And I would say within the next couple months. I don't know what the agendas look like coming up, so if we can slide it in there, that would be great.
I would suggest once you have a full council seated.
Oh, that's, thank you. I didn't even think about that, but that would be fantastic. And I guess the second meeting in May, maybe, if we have room on that agenda.
And I apologize, one follow-up question. So the current process is mayor and vice mayor will go through applicants and then present it to council for approval?
Yeah, and then the council will make basically the suggestion and the nomination, and then it would ratify from the council. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Yes, that's my vote. Yes.
Thank you.
And Mayor O'Reilly.
Aye. Thank you very much. I know that Councilmember Silva wanted to speak under council comments. Did you still want to speak under council comments?
Yes, sir. All right. So heard a lot of comments from the public, and without we can't, due to Brown Act and things not being agenda, it's we're always in a weird spot to comment. But I think that everyone here truly does care about this community. They truly do care about each individual, and I have pages and pages of notes. I don't check my phone during meetings, but my phone's been blowing up, so I'll have fun tonight looking through that. And I think that I do want to recognize that there's always going to be concerns of trust, and then when that trust is broken or that trust never quite exists, it's very difficult to get that back. And that's just something in general that from a lot of conversations that I've been having, not just currently in this current role, but throughout my own personal journey, that's something a lot of folks are really cognizant of. And I really want to thank particularly the city manager for adding in his comments and the direction that we're going to be taking. And that's something that we all are in this process together on how we ensure that we all have a safe community to live in. Recently, and quite honestly, those of us that grew up here, we've been through, a lot of ups and downs, and, and it's very apparent how there is this divide. And as much as I would love for people to come together and get a chance to actually listen and understand and empathize with one another, there's all these challenges currently that are actually exacerbating that. And so one of the problems is that I continue to notice is just, you know, how within our own circles, how we essentially cut ourselves off to different ways of thinking and different cultures, different different belief systems, and so on and so forth. And then, and in many ways, those of us that grew up here and had our own unique experiences, whatever those may be, it's not. There is a perception that Vacaville does have a systemic racist problem, and it's represented even down to our youth. And something that I've learned throughout the years is whether we truly believe that there is a problem or that there is not a problem, we have a growing fraction in our society that is stating this, and they're experiencing this. And something that I've been very cognizant and aware of is, and what we're seeing, not just nationally, but even locally, is that as we continue to age, those of us that have had these experiences as a small set of, as a minority group here, now our kids are experiencing that. And in many ways, as we continue to ignore or just say, oh, that's their First Amendment right, or that's a really tough issue, we try to sidestep and not actually address it. What we're really doing is we're adding that burden, we're passing that burden on to our children. And that's really unfortunate. We are all benefactors of our past. All of our lives are better because someone sacrificed before us. Now, those benefits are going to be different depending on our situation and how we individually respond to that. But I think it's important that we, one, recognize that, and that we also recognize that we also, each of us, inherit a burden that has been passed on through generations. And so I'm really encouraged that communities are speaking up. I absolutely would hope and encourage folks to continue, those who are being peaceful, to continue that approach. We have, next week, we're recognizing Martin Luther King, and so it's incumbent on all of us to find a way to live a life of peace, of inclusivity. But we, even as leaders, as elected leaders, also have to find ways to display that. So, there's been different things that have been put on social media, and, we'll point the finger at the schools will point the finger at the city or the parents or, county, and in the end, just we as citizens, we just want some help. We don't care who helps or how we help. We're just looking for help. And one of the burdens that we have as leaders is to help support that. But in order for any type of change, any type of improvement to happen, it really does need a collective community input. So I am encouraged that the school district has an equity task force to help address this. I am encouraged that our even city has put forth a type of task force to help address this. And there's been efforts throughout time. And so what I would like to do is actually make a motion to put on an upcoming agenda, a resolution that, number one, just simply condemns acts of racism within our community. And number two, that we as a council will work towards supporting anti-racist efforts throughout our community, to where we as Vacaville can essentially become this beacon, this city, this community that truly does look on how we actually address something that many cities have continued to ignore and pass on. So I'm putting forth and requesting my council to support a motion to draft up a resolution. And I would love for that to happen in collaboration with the city's efforts on the task force that they put forth. Again, to number one, condemn any acts of racism within our community. And number two, that we will actively support efforts that will help support a more anti-racist community.
Absolutely, that's a motion. I will second that. And
can I make a friendly amendment to that, if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
So this is Vice Mayor Sullivan. So my only amendment, possibly, Councilmember Silva, is there is a groundswell effort that was started about 20 years ago that's sort of coming back in Vacaville. and it's called a place of peace. And so I'm wondering if in your resolution, if we can have staff engage with the place of peace team to see if they somehow fit into either the resolution or into the presentation that evening, or if they can come forward and kind of bring their message here as well. It started, 20 some odd years ago by a teacher in Vacaville High School. Actually, I don't know, Vacaville Unified School District. And she is actively reviving kind of this message, which is very similar to the message that you're talking about now. Hopefully at the school board as well as here at the city. But my amendment would be, could we incorporate them into the process somehow?
Silva, are you okay with that amendment?
Yeah, actually, that's a phenomenal family who also runs actually Joanna's Voice. And so, absolutely.
Okay, and I'll continue to second that. Can we have roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Wiley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. We'll move to Vice Mayor Sullivan.
So I've got a couple quick additions, guys, reports out. The first one really quickly, Mayor Rowlett, you mentioned the applications for the commissions are pretty much open constantly or open year round. I didn't know that until just now. So I was actually going to ask if staff could publicize and open up those applications and get people excited. I know I'm on like Fairfield and Vallejo's listservs too. I just got an email from the city saying, hey, the commissions are open. So if we can publicize to the public in general that we actually have some vacancies and we want people to apply, and that the process is that the applications are open pretty much year round, that would be great. I just didn't do enough digging. I didn't know, but I know a lot of the public doesn't know as well. So that was my first question to staff. The second one really, and it's kind of, going after Councilmember Silva, I'm kind of just being repetitious here, but first, welcome to the new council, guys. I mean, this is your second meeting, and I know that you all know what you're getting into, and I'm glad to have you here. And I just want to point out to my fellow council members and the city in general that we're really at a crisis point, guys. We're at a crisis point in public trust. We're at a crisis point for public safety. We've got people macing each other downtown. We've got people fighting. We've got we're at a crisis point in how we as a community treat each other. And, our citizens are watching. That sadly and unfortunately, the nation is watching. We're trying to attract these big major businesses and attract new housing options and all these different things to Vacaville. And if you Google our national news results right now, they're not very pretty. We need to act. And I really appreciate the course of action that the city manager and the staff talked about tonight. And, there's been a lot of council members working on this on the back end for a while. And I'm just super committed personally to putting the time, effort, and work in to get this done and focus on it, make it a major priority for us. So I just really do want to point out that we're past that boiling point, guys. Like the water's boiling over on the stove, and we have to act in a meaningful, methodical, and more importantly, impactful way to make this better. So I just appreciate having you guys on the team, and the mayor, I appreciate your support for all these efforts too. It's just, we are reaching a point now where we have to do something, and I'm excited that we are. The last thing is I'm going to ask to agendize a quick discussion. So hopefully the next meeting or soon on a minimum of a 1-month extension for the warming shelter, possibly a 2-month extension for the warming shelter. And I'd also really like to have staff take a look at the extension of the hours. There is some sort of issue where the folks have to get kicked out like 5 in the morning in the cold. If we could maybe extend that till 8 o'clock or something like that, that would be fantastic. COVID is worse than it's ever been. It's absolutely freezing outside. I really think it's the right thing to do. So I'm hoping I get a second on that. And I'm also wondering if maybe they could bring back the restrooms and kind of what we're doing with restrooms and hand washing as part of that item. So I don't know if anyone will second, but I'd like to make a motion to bring that back to council quickly.
Yeah, I'll second that, Vice Mayor Sullivan. Can we get a roll call vote for that?
Councilmember Stockton?
One question: How long was the extension for? Is it just 1 month, Vice Mayor?
It's just
they'll bring it back.
Agendize
I'm just asking if they bring back a proposal. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yes.
Just to agendize it.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sullivan,
Yes.
Mayor Rolette.
Aye. I see no other hands, so I'm going to move to 11, reports of city manager. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything tonight?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay. We will move to item 12, closed session. After that, I don't think we're going to report out tonight. Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, there won't be anything that is reportable tonight, but depending on council's action, it may be disclosable upon request at a later date.
Okay. And with that, we'll move to item 13. Good night, Vacaville.